How do you wake up the president?
Very carefully.
I mean, what? Do you knock on the door? Do you open the door?
Absolutely, yeah.
Both?
Yeah, both.
So, I mean...
Both. Knock and go, because time was kind of the essence here. No, it's no big secret. They give you a goofy car with these antennas on it, and I've been to 74 countries and almost every state in the union, and it was true all across the world. Hey, the FBI are kings of investigation. The Secret Service has a lot more fun. When I went back to work, I put down that my first choice was the President's Detail, and my second choice was the President's Detail, my third choice was the President's Detail. Of all the nights that I worked at the White House, you're always at some level of ready. And here I'm being told, we don't need you. And it's like, our country's in crisis, what do you mean you don't need me? I don't see her in the interim, so I just left a note on the table that said, I'm headed to California, I'll call you when I get there. And that's the life of a Secret Service agent.
Ladies and gentlemen, as always, it's both an honor and a pleasure to welcome my next guest to the podcast. He spent 24 years on, would you call it active duty? Is that
active duty, sure.
Duty? Over the course of 3 different presidencies, which was Clinton, Bush, and Obama, with the United States Secret Service. Obviously, we're going to be talking a lot about that, but he also is on the board of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which we definitely want to spend some time digging into. And he's also the author of Cheating Death, which outlines all of his Secret Service experiences, which we're going to talk about. He's the guy behind the guy that you can't even see even when you're looking. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Ken Valentine.
Mike, it's so good to be here. It's an honor to meet you, an even bigger honor to be invited on your show, so thank you.
Well, it's the pleasure is all mine. Thank you much. I really appreciate you taking the time to come here and share your story, which is a pretty amazing one. I mean, to be able to ask the guy that was behind the scenes for those 3 presidencies, especially given where we're at as a nation now. There's a million questions, and I know a lot of our Patreon members have contributed questions, which I'm excited to ask you about on their behalf. But such a historical career that you've had, spanning such a significant time in our nation's history that I can't even imagine the things you've seen and the insight that you've gained from it. What's the last full book that you've read?
Oh wow! I tell you, I've been on a tear lately, so I've been reading a lot. I think after I finished the second book that I wrote, I said, you know what, I need to do a little more intake. The last full book that I read was called Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus.
Really?
By Nabil Qureshi. Yeah. And right before that, Atomic Habits.
Oh, okay.
And I'm having trouble remembering his name for some reason, but that was one of the finest books I've ever read.
That's awesome. I've heard of both of them. Was there a significant takeaway from either that stand out?
Well, Atomic Habits for sure, because it really fed into what I believe, which is that it's these little things in life, these atomic habit things that we pursue and change and become disciplined for, that end up making the biggest difference. And so, I'm not looking for big change, looking for little change that makes a big difference.
Yeah,
I think the Nabil Qureshi book was very interesting to me, just because, here's a committed Muslim that kind of like the C.S. Lewis story, he sought to disprove Christianity, to prove his Muslim faith, his upbringing, his background, and his heritage, and he ended up switching teams. So it was that was very interesting to me to see how that could take place.
Yeah, what country was he from originally?
Pakistan.
Oh, okay. Wow. That's fascinating. What's something that you wish that you were better at?
Golly. I've got a long list of things I was better at. Patience is one of them. Seeing the good in things, even when you don't get your way.
Yeah.
That would be...
It's hard to do.
That's hard to do, yeah.
If time travel were possible, where and when would you go, and more importantly, why?
Ooh. Well, I love history, so as long as I'm going backwards, I think that would be great. I have no interest in going forward. I'm afraid of what I might see, but going backwards, it would all be fun to me. I would love to go back to the 1800s, 1700s. I'd love to see what this place looked like before it got settled and inhabited and taken over. I'd love to go back further than that, ancient history and Rome and all of that. As long as I'm going backwards, I think that would be great. Just love all the history. Would love to see what it actually looked like instead of what we've been told.
For sure. Are you a man of faith?
I am. Sure am.
Do you have a desire in that same vein to go meet Jesus or see him?
Well, that would be fun. I think it'd be great to see where he walked, when he walked it.
Yeah. Would you try to talk to him?
Absolutely, yeah.
What's the first thing you'd say? How about some wine, bro?
Yeah. I got some water. Could you change this for me? I think the question I would want to ask is, do you really love me that much? You're going to be, what's coming, and how, you love me that much. I mean, of course, that's what I believe is that's why he did what he did. And so knowing that ahead of time, I think that would make that extra hard. So I think I'd ask that.
Absolutely. Great answer. Do you have a favorite quote?
By a person? Well, I've got so many favorite quotes, and I dumped them all in this book. So I've kind of done the dump there. But Jonathan Edwards said, he said, point number one, I'm going to believe in God. And point number two, even when no one else does, I will.
Oh, wow.
And I've always kind of hung on to that. I put it in the book. It's the one I can come up with.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you have an EDC in Alabama? Everyday carry. Are you rocking a pistol?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Do you mind sharing what it is?
Yeah. I've got three that I transitioned to. I'm going to embarrass myself because I'm going to tell you the truth. I've got a 5-shot 22 that I carry when I'm not carrying something else. I just lied. I've got 4.
Yeah.
I've got a Glock 9mm that I carry when I think about it too much.
Yeah.
And then I've got a little 380 that I don't like because it doesn't fit my hand very well. The 22 actually fits my hand pretty well. It folds out, and I can, I'm pretty quick with that, considering that you got to fold it and cock it.
Yeah. Is it like it's a wheel gun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the Ruger LCR thing, right? Is it, if it flips? Like, what do you mean?
It's no, it's a North American Arms.
Oh, okay.
Just the handle, it folds into itself.
Oh, okay.
And you unfold it, cock it, and then pray, because it's not, even from a short distance. I took my boys to a range over Christmas, and you were lucky to hit anything with it, but it sure would make a lot of noise.
Yeah. Well, I will say a 22, that round statistically, like FBI statistics, gun shooting fatalities wise, actually kills more people than any other round. Usually it's from a rifle, but still, it's plenty capable. I had and carried a little Ruger LCR 22. I don't remember if it was a 5 or 6 shot, but you can get some pretty gnarly 22 rounds. But I mean, to me, I've always been, and I think most people that have shot a lot tend to kind of come full circle on the ballistics and caliber preference, et cetera, for a carry gun. Because to me, like, it's one of those, tell me you shoot a lot, or, tell me you don't shoot much without telling me you don't shoot much. It's like, well, I want a 45. It's a stopping power. It's like, if the fucking round is going where it needs to go, it doesn't matter. On the transverse, if it doesn't go where it needs to go, it also doesn't matter, So a 22 will absolutely fucking drop. I mean, if you pin somebody between the eyes with a 122 round, it's game over, and it's way fucking easier to hit somebody between the eyes with a 22 than it is with a fucking dirty, hairy hand cannon that, is separating your fucking shoulder like you got kicked by a mule. So,
well, for me too, it's a matter of being able to conceal it and carry it. I don't want the imprint. I don't want people to know. So being able to conceal it well has been an issue for me. A skinny guy with, and so that's been an issue and something that I have leaned into to, a little bit of the emphasis on carryability versus what caliber it is. I just it was more important to me to be able to shove this thing where nobody can see it and then
What do you
get
mean?
it quickly.
What do you mean, Ken? Where's this podcast going already?
Yeah.
I am curious, did the 24 years as a Secret Service agent shape or influence that mentality of it's about how it carries and how insignificant it is from a weight and print standpoint? Is that a big part of why you carry what you carry and your preferences now?
Yeah, I've never thought about that, but I think you're probably onto something because in the Secret Service, once you put on the pen and the sunglasses and the earpiece, everybody knows who you are anyway, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You could literally have a cannon on you. I mean, we could strap an Uzi under your under your suit coat, and who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, it's a Secret Service. You got weapons. I mean, half the time guys are carrying rifles, and it's kind of on display.
Yeah.
So, to separate myself from that, I think was important.
Yeah.
And I don't, and so now, Joe Private Citizen, I don't, if something's going to go down, I want to be the surprise. I don't want it known ahead of time that, this guy's a potential threat. I'd like to surprise people with that. So,
Amen. Guys, real quick, I've recently launched Patreon for the all-inclusive mic drop experience. This goes above and beyond just ad-free. Yes, you are getting ad-free episodes, but you're getting before and after bonus footage of myself and the guest in studio, in many instances outside of the studio, doing jiu-jitsu, dog stuff, car, motorcycle, recovery, fitness, lifestyle, all kinds of different things. All the different things that I have going on are included in that Patreon page. We're releasing content multiple times a day, every single day. And I want to offer that to you guys. Just go to my Patreon page. The link is in every description or any platform that I'm on, and come enjoy that experience with me. That content is for you guys. It's what you want to see. It's about you. It's about what world you want to peek into in terms of all the different things that I have my hands in, and we're bringing that to you guys just for you. And I want to take one quick second to just say thank you to everybody who already has signed up. Without your support, we couldn't do what we do for you. So thank you to you guys, and I look forward to seeing you in there. What are the two key components for canine success? That's effective training and proper nutrition. Fueled by Team Dog brings those two components to your family and best friend. The perfect nutritional balance that results in a higher mental acuity, energy, overall vitality, and even an improved appearance. Every product you will find in my company's store was born from the battlefield and not from the boardroom. Let my life's work help you become your dog's hero. AM routine, when you're, normal day at, a work week, et cetera, what time do you get up and what do the first 3 hours look like?
Oh, great question. For me, I get up at 5. That's my typical go-to time to get up. Even if I don't set an alarm, I'm probably going to wake up about 5 o'clock. If I have my druthers and I'm not getting on an airplane or doing something else that's got to be done, I spend the first hour reading the Bible and praying, and that is my go-to. That's what I've come to love. First thing in the morning is just me and the Lord in the Word, and then again, if I have my choice, then I go to the gym.
Yeah,
and so it's me, God, the Bible, and a cup of coffee, and then I'm off to the gym.
Yeah,
and I spend the next hour at the gym, and then depending on what else I've got going on, I'm home, family, getting ready for work.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite book of the Bible?
I do, and it's like a wheel that I spin and throw a dart at. But right now it's the Psalms.
Yeah.
Old Testament. Just digging into those. There's a whole bunch of them, 150 of them. So
yeah.
you can kind of pick and choose, and some are a little drier than the others. But I think right now digging in, that's my new favorite.
Yeah.
For the moment. It'll change again.
Yeah, I love it. Childhood wise, where are you from, and talk about what it was like growing up.
Yeah, I grew up in Indiana. I mean, nobody believes that, but
Why?
Well, just the way I sound. But my family was from Tennessee, And we got moved first to Oklahoma, and my parents got moved to Indiana. So my sister and I grew up in Indiana, but it was rural Indiana. So we moved a few different places, but probably the closest thing to a city we lived on was just a cul-de-sac street in the middle of a farm, and there were maybe 30 houses on this single strip street. And we were there until I was about 10 years old, and that was just a fantastic place to grow up. And you know, there are a lot of kids, a lot of freedom, farmland, woods, you know, creeks and ponds and lakes and whatnot. And then we moved, and we just moved across the farmland to a house out truly in the middle of the country, gravel road, gravel driveway, and surrounded by woods. And that was just heaven for a 10-year-old. I mean, it's just, you know, I was turned loose and given a ton of freedom just to do, you know, what you want to do. But a lot of sports, a lot of outdoor, you know, hunting and exploring and you know, enjoying it.
Yeah, that's awesome. You got along with your sister well, I assume?
Sure did, yeah.
Were there any significant, impactful moments as a child, whether they were either super traumatic or on the other side of the token, just, you know, like incredibly positive in an impactful way?
Growing up, wow. I don't think of any.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I had a very stable growing up. I mean, my parents were together. My extended family were all together. We were in Tennessee all the time.
Yeah.
With my parents, siblings, and grandparents, and so it's pretty unremarkable actually, in a remarkable way, because there just wasn't a lot of, there wasn't trauma, there wasn't, nothing terribly remarkable about it. But these days, I think that is kind of remarkable.
Agreed, absolutely, it is, and I think one, it's rare, but two, I think there's no better recipe for a child's success than for that to be the case, you know. Now, granted, there's something to be said for, and I've met a lot of amazing people that had book-worthy childhoods in terms of how traumatic and just all over the place fucking crazy they were, and their resilience that was learned in going through that stuff has kind of built them into this powerhouse human being that is just uber successful. But I think those are anomalies, you know, they're exceptions, and most of the time it's pretty counterproductive when kids have really rough childhoods. But
I think, my dad's story would have been more like that.
Yeah.
You know, he had a alcoholic dad, abusive, think he loved him, but he never said it, didn't know it. Yeah. And so I think it drove my dad to do great things, and so of course he's my hero. So he, I look at him and see what he had, what he then sought to provide as a result of all that, and that's awesome.
I share a very similar childhood to you that way. You know, I had two older brothers, a younger sister, and our family was like fucking leave it to Beaver growing up, you know. I mean, I didn't realize how special that was until, like junior high, when I started going to other people's houses and spending the night and seeing. I was like, what the fuck, you know? It was like, but anyway, what did your parents do for a living?
Early on, Mom was stay at home.
Yeah.
Mom was very ambitious though, and she attended college early, ended up getting married, having me, and then she went back to school to be a designer, interior design, architecture. When I was probably later grade school, opened a business, still going to school through junior high for me, and high school, and then we were actually in college together.
Oh, wow.
And so in fact, I would run into her on campus. It was the craziest thing. And she looks incredibly young for her age, so I was always interested in who her friends were on campus, and so she would introduce me to her friends. I took one of them out, and then Dad was an FBI agent, so I couldn't get away with anything. Yeah. Every cop in town knew him. It seemed like everybody knew him.
Yeah, I can only assume or imagine that had or played a role in your career path.
It did, yeah. I sought to emulate my dad. I wanted to be like him. My uncle, also an FBI agent, was the one who got my dad in, you know.
Oh, nice.
And so, yeah, I had great role models. I wanted to be just like them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, when I put my chips in, that's what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Dad had the wisdom, and the Bureau guys are going to hate this, but Dad had the wisdom to say, hey, I think you're a little different. Why don't you put in for Secret Service? Because he got to work with the Secret Service, which honestly, it just doesn't happen that often. And he loved them. He loved the culture. He loved the guys that he was working with. And he said, you may want to pursue this. And of course, I didn't listen right away. I did eventually. Yeah.
Did you ever ask him, or did he ever communicate to you what he saw in you that made him think Secret Service would be better than FBI?
He did articulate that a little bit. He and my uncle both pushed me to go to law school. I didn't want to go to law school. I think there was some sense in me that said, I know this is a good idea, but I didn't want to do it. But they were pushing. I got in, so I went. Dad said at that point, hey, if you go FBI, they're going to put you in a white-collar crime squad, and you're going to be miserable. And I think he saw in me, a bit of jack of all trades, a little attention deficit disorder maybe. Yeah. And you're going to want to do a variety of stuff, and you're going to get to do one thing. Yeah. And hey, the FBI are kings of investigation. They've got the resources, the manpower, the wherewithal. They're it. The Secret Service has a lot more fun.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
Well, and I think Dad saw that. You know, he saw these guys that dropped everything to do a Ronald Reagan protection advance. Yeah. And then when it was over, they went back to doing investigations, which he loved, and he's still very good at it. But I think he saw in me, I think he knew I needed to play multiple games. And
is that what he did for the FBI, is investigations of a specific thing, or what?
Well, that's funny that you asked that, because what he actually said to me was, you're looking at my career thinking that's what you're going to get, and you're not.
Oh, okay.
He really had a great career, and he got to investigate everything from bank robberies. They used to go out on bank robberies and chase these guys, literally. Yeah. And that was fun. He got shot at. He's been in lots of high-speed car chases, all this stuff. And he had a great career and absolutely loved it to the day that he retired, 30 years. But I think what he saw coming was that I wasn't going to have the same experience.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously the I in FBI is investigations, but they do a lot of things. And there's some guys that in the FBI do none of investigatory work. So, I'm always curious. And there's a surprisingly wide swath of variety within the FBI. I mean, really a lot of federal agencies, things that you wouldn't think, Secret Service being as good of an example, I think, as any of the different types of things that they do. Most people just think it's just protecting the president, and there's a ton of other shit, which we'll get into. But was there kind of a light switch moment for you in high school or as a child where you really said, that's what I want to go do? Or was it kind of a culmination of watching your dad growing up and what have you?
I don't think it was me and light switches weren't together in high school. I was interested in very little in high school, and you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And so no, nothing good really emanated from me, including thoughts in high school. But I think I knew what I wanted to do well before that. And I think looking at Dad and watching him give speeches and do what he did, and kind of the respect that he enjoyed, I wanted the same thing. And so I think I knew very, very early, and rarely did I even entertain doing anything different.
Yeah. So you graduated high school. Did you go to law school like they wanted you to?
I did. I went to college. Mom and I, hanging out together at Purdue, and then I immediately went to law school.
At Purdue also, or?
No, they wouldn't have let me in even if they had a law school. No, I went to, I applied all over, didn't hear back from a lot of them, and I was accepted at 4, chose Mississippi College.
Oh, okay.
Clinton, Mississippi.
Yeah. And did you finish?
I did.
You did?
Yep.
What was that like? I mean, was that did you struggle getting through it with the subject matter and just kind of the person that you were and how you were wired, or did it come fairly easy?
No, it did not come easy.
Yeah.
That was, law school was a struggle for me. College, frankly, was a struggle for me. I give a lot of credit to my college roommate, starting my second, third, and fourth year in college. Tom Grayson was the role model, the example. I hitched my wagon to him, and he, after almost failing out, I changed my tune a little bit. I made the dean's dishonor list at Purdue, and then had to turn it all around. And I followed Tom to the library every night, and he, I didn't learn. I just started putting in the time, and it wasn't very efficient or effective immediately, but things started to turn around. And by the time I finished, I was stroking all A's at Purdue. And then lo and behold, I get to law school and had to relearn my lesson all over again. I talk about that in the book because it was a powerful lesson to call Tom up, and he's in medical school and I'm in law school, and he's asking me, how's it going? And I told him about all the fun I was having, and he says, man, you didn't learn anything at Purdue, did you? So law school was a struggle for me. I really had to fight it. I was the one who didn't take it quite as seriously as others. I mean, others had all these big plans. I wanted to be in federal law enforcement, so I didn't take it as seriously as I should have, and try to dig another ditch and then had to come out of it again.
One thing I wanted to ask: childhood, college, even law school. Did you play sports? Were you athletic growing up?
I was. Yeah, my dad played college basketball, and so I thought, well, it's just a family gene thing. It turns out it's not. My sons are better than I was, but I played baseball, football, basketball, and I played tennis too. When football stopped being an option, when I started getting crushed, I went with a buddy to play tennis one day, and we were the kind of the redneck high school. I mean, we didn't have anything good in terms of. I think we had a golf team and we had a tennis team, but they were the ones that everyone slaughtered, So,
like a practice squad.
I got to play on that.
Yeah. As you guys know, sleep is a huge component to recovery and really all aspects in life, and it's something that a lot of us have struggled with, for a lot of our lives, frankly. As you know, I've been a big proponent of Beam, which is a hot cocoa that you drink before you go to sleep, and it's helped tremendously in terms of hours of sleep maintained as well as the quality of sleep. Today, my listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, which is their science-backed hot cocoa for sleep, and it's got no added sugar. Better sleep has never tasted better. As you know, other sleep aids can cause next-day grogginess and just make you feel crappy, but Dream contains a powerful all-natural blend of reishi, magnesium, L-theanine, and apigenin, also melatonin, to help you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up feeling refreshed. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/micdrop, all caps, all one word, and use code MicDrop, all one word, all caps, at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/micdrop and use code MicDrop for up to 40% off. How often do you guys find that you can't find a t-shirt that fits well at all? It's either droopy around the neck, it's too long, loose in the sleeves, or too tight in the sleeves. For me, especially with what I would consider an athletic build, it's difficult to find shirts that actually fit. True Classic Tees does not have that problem. Their activewear becomes essential for workouts and vacations alike. The crew necks offer moisture-wicking, odor control, quick-dry, antimicrobial finishes for ultimate comfort. Compare them with their super soft, stretchy joggers for all-day comfort. If you're looking to dress up, you can do the short-sleeve button-ups for the relaxed yet polished summer look. You can pair them with True Classic's authentic jeans for a laid-back vibe that never goes out of style. Coastal Charm, you got the classic polo t-shirt. If you're in the active category, True Classic keeps you cool and stylish with the 2-in-1 short and 7-inch training shorts. Seriously, whatever you choose, you can't go wrong with True Classic. They have a little bit of everything for everybody. All their clothing can be mixed and matched and designed to work with your lifestyle so you can look and feel your best each and every day. In fact, True Classic is so committed to their products, they even have a 100% perfect fit guarantee and easy returns. So if you're ready to upgrade your closet, shop now with my exclusive link at trueclassic.com/micdrop, all caps, all one word. Discover the perfect blend of summer vibes and timeless elegance with True Classic. Shop now and elevate your summer wardrobe with ease. That's trueclassic.com/micdrop. Nothing in college?
No.
Were you, did you stay in shape? Like, did you work out and lift and that kind of stuff? Or?
I did. I tried to run. I absolutely hate running.
Yeah.
I wrote in the book that the only thing I hate worse than running is not running.
Yeah.
It just, I hate it that much. It's right down there with not running. And so I tried to stay in shape, but I got hit with Crohn's disease when I was in college and had to have surgery. They removed part of my colon, just what you wanted to hear about, I'm sure.
I've heard some pretty gnarly shit on this show over the years, so I would ask, or even I would challenge you to try to surprise me or gross me out. If you can, I'll think of something cool. That
set me back. That was a little hard to take. That wasn't part of my life plan. Tom, again, being the surgeon wannabe, his dad was a surgeon. He knew a lot about that and kind of coached me through in a way that nobody else was probably capable of at that time because I wasn't going to listen to him. Yeah. And thankfully, I kept my wits about me and maintain the desire to keep moving forward toward my goals. Because if you read up about Crohn's and have that kind of surgery, you think your options are limited.
Yeah.
And I just thank God for wise counsel and good advice at the time that I got it. And had I listened to that, had I allowed that label to kind of stick to me, I probably wouldn't have pursued the Secret Service. I probably wouldn't have been allowed to in some respect. And the odd thing is that there is no cure for Crohn's disease. And 500,000 people in this country have it. There's no cure. It's a horrible disease, and the doctors now can't find a trace of it in me. So
wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and call it what you want. I've got words for it. Yeah. But I don't. No meds, nothing.
Yeah, that's incredible. Did you eat a certain way to help mitigate some of those symptoms, or
I tried.
Yeah,
I didn't.
I don't know much about it, admittedly, but
I couldn't find a path to green with that. When that was going on, and I didn't find anything that helped.
Yeah,
really.
Wow. All right, so you finished law school. What was the path from graduating law school until ultimately becoming a Secret Service agent?
Well, it was a little bumpy.
Yeah.
I finished law school working nights at United Parcel Service, and the FBI. So I graduated on a Friday, maybe a Saturday, May of 92. Got married a week later.
Oh wow!
And so all of that was planned, and so 2 months prior to that, the FBI called and said, "Hey, we've got a hiring freeze on, and so best of luck to you."
Oh, wow.
I'm like, "Hey, I had all my eggs in one basket,"
yeah.
And so I turned to my dad, still with the FBI, and he said, "Well, I've been telling you all along, you need to apply to Secret Service." And so the bumpy part was that the Secret Service took forever. They've got it going on now where they can get an applicant through the process in under a year. But back then, it took me from 92 to 96 to get hired.
Wow.
And part of that was on me. I kept moving, and I couldn't take leave to go do all the testing and all the stuff. So some of that was on me, but it was just a long, difficult process with a ton of steps. And, you move, you start over. And so I continued working at UPS at nights. I got a job at Sears part-time for a little while. I got a job as a parole officer with the Department of Corrections for a little while. And then I took a job with State Farm Insurance back in Tennessee where family was and did that until until the Secret Service finally wised up and
and brought you on board. I mean, having a law degree, did doing something where that was a prerequisite or of a benefit not register, or just something you didn't want to get into, or?
I had no interest.
Yeah.
I work, and honestly, I did work part-time for a law firm. I just did not like being stuck behind a desk.
Yeah.
So my brother-in-law got me a job at his firm where I got to work one summer. I interned at a firm in Knoxville, and it just wasn't my cup of tea. And I could see my dad's wisdom in, hey, we need to get you something where you can mix it up a little bit and go out, come back, go out, come back. And so, no. In fact, I applied for a job with the police department and would have loved working for this police department. I won't mention them because it's not pretty, but they didn't realize I could hear them talking over the wall.
Oh, wow.
And the law degree hurt me. They
Really?
didn't want to hire somebody who they assumed was leaving. And maybe that was a fair assumption.
Yeah.
But as soon as they found out that I had a law degree and my dad was FBI, they were like, we're not.
Yeah.
And they were in there making fun of me, and I could hear them. And then I had to go in and submit to the interview, and it's like you guys can play all you want, but I know you're dogging me.
Yeah. It would have been impossible for me not to go in there and fuck with them in a way where I would make sure that I knew, or that they knew that I had heard them. Some little smart ass comment, something.
I think if current Ken Valentine had gone in there,
sure
that's exactly what would happen. But then I was
time.
still thinking, well, there's a chance. Maybe if I'm really good, they'll pick me up.
All right, so 92 to 96, you're kind of bouncing around doing different stuff. You finally get picked up by the Secret Service. Walk us through that initial entrance and such.
Yeah, they had a great offer for me. The Secret Service agent called me, and I think it was 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah, and
I'm still at work, and I worked my tail off at State Farm working claims. I just was slow or didn't get it or something, but I was working a lot of nights and weekends there for nothing. But they called me and said, hey, we want to offer you a job, and I was like, I'll take it. Very excited, ready to go. Well, wait, hold on.
You don't know what it is yet, but I'll take it.
It's going to be, the offer is in Louisville, Kentucky. I said, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And he's like, hold on. He said, we're going to start you at a GS9. And I remember being told that the law degree will get you a better starting point, but I didn't know if the 9 was better than the 7 and the 5, or if that was worse. But it didn't matter. I just said, I'll take it. Turns out that was the better, but I was going to take it no matter what. And so I finally got the opportunity to say, I'll take it. And so we had to move ourselves to Louisville, Kentucky. We packed up everything that we had in our little apartment. We didn't have any kids at that point. And we moved from Morristown, Tennessee to Louisville, Kentucky, and dropped my sweet wife off there. And I headed to Beltsville, Maryland first. They did a week or two there of orientation and all the government stuff, and then you go to FLETC, to the Federal Law Enforcement Officer Training Center, Glencoe, Georgia, and that's I think 3 or 4 month ordeal. It's kind of like its own academy. You have to graduate from that. It's very generalized stuff. You get a little bit of everything. You get some handcuffing, you get some legal training, you get a little bit of driving, and all the stuff that you would want a federal law enforcement officer to have. And then you go to Secret Service Academy, and we don't even call it an academy. It's just the training center at Beltsville, Maryland. And that's when it got real.
Yeah.
The other was kind of child's play in comparison. It was there were certainly days where it was rigorous, but our instructors were the best. We had these 2 guys. One was a former Marine, and they loved to mess with us, and so they would fly down and say, we know you pansies aren't running down here, so let's go for a run. And it'd be like, we ran this morning. Yeah. We're going to run this afternoon. Let's go. And so they, Dan Emmett was the lead instructor. Scott Marble was number 2, and they put a whooping on all of us. And, it's probably a good thing, because I needed a challenge. I needed it to be hard, or I would have probably, if it hadn't been hard, I think I would have graduated and said, well, this isn't what I thought it was.
Yeah.
But as hard as it was, thanks to Mr. Emmett, I still call him Mr. Emmett.
Yeah.
I was grateful. You know, I felt like I had accomplished something. I'd gotten through something that was tough for me, and so I was. This is it. You know, I'm here. This is what I want to do.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. How long is the academy? We had Evie on not long ago.
Yeah.
But you know, just because everybody's experience can be a little bit different, I'll ask you some of the same things. What was the total time for the actual academy for Secret Service?
After FLETC, and you go to the Secret Service portion, it's 3, maybe 4 months long.
Yeah. And you said it was tough. I mean, was there anything that stuck out as being the most challenging there?
Mr. Emmett.
Yeah, just the pounding, or the running, the physical messing with, basically.
The classroom stuff, honestly, was not a huge challenge.
Yeah.
The deal there was more about perfection. You know, you didn't want to get anything wrong. You wanted to get it all right. The physical training, however, was pretty substantial.
Yeah. And
not every class had it the same. In fact, we looked down on every other class that ever went through there because they didn't have Mr. Emmett.
Yeah.
And, former Marine, he ran it like boot camp, and he pounded it out of us. And we would, the loop around Beltsville is maybe 3.5 miles. And, Mr. Emmett was famous for leading us on a run. And we'd get back around to the flagpole, and he'd say, does anybody want to quit?
Yeah.
And nobody said yes. He said, well, then let's go again.
Yeah.
And, man, I remember one day we did that 4 times.
Wow.
And, it was hot as all get out. And in between, he would have you stop and do push-ups until the stragglers caught up. And we had a tower out there, a 9-story tower that he'd make us run up. And so he enjoyed putting it on us. And, hey, I was better for it, honestly. I needed something hard, and he provided.
Yeah. Safe to say that was the most physically challenging thing you'd done in your life?
Absolutely, yeah.
So once you graduated there, do they have like a system where either right before, during, or right after, do they kind of give you guys assignments the way they do in most federal places or even a lot of military units?
I think so. Secret Service does it a little different. So they tell you ahead of time where you're going to start. So, when the guy called me that night and said, I want to offer you a job, Special Agent GS9, we're going to start you in Louisville, Kentucky. Other federal agencies, and I think the Bureau still does it this way, they don't tell you where you're starting.
Okay.
And the only difference really is that we had to move ourselves, the first one. The FBI doesn't tell you where you're going, but they move you when they, when you find out. And then from there, at least back in my day, you had to pick a full-time protection assignment after 4 to 7 years. Yeah. And so there's a backlog of people waiting to go, and then those slots rotate open, and then they're trying to fill those slots with, who's currently up. And so you could certainly voice your preferences. You could try to pull strings and work the net, all this kind of stuff. But a lot of times you had to go where the needs were. Yeah.
How many different assignments are there within the Secret Service?
There are not that many. I mean, you can
be
list
them?
You can be assigned to the field, and we have field offices in every decent-sized city in the country.
Yeah.
Then on the protection side, there are very few. You've got the president's detail, the vice president's detail. We've got an intel section. We've got a dignitary protective detail
then a
section. And then formers. Yeah, you've got a number of former details, and then we have headquarters. So all kinds of aspects within headquarters there.
Yeah. So within a field office, like what is taking place there?
Yeah, it's all investigations unless and until you get a protective visit. So Dallas, for example, a huge field office, a great, well-run field office. They've got multiple teams there because they have former presidents or at least one that lives here, at least part-time. And so they have a full-time detail that lives here, works here, and utilizes the office. And then you have the field office side of it that's doing the criminal investigations. So it's financial crimes. It's all financial type investigations with the addition of protective intelligence. Yeah. So if there's a threat against the president that that they can identify took place here, you're going to go out and interview.
Yeah. So the guys that are in field offices, or I guess really any Secret Service agent, while they're doing that job, let's say they're married, there's a neighborhood barbecue, Johnny dipshit neighbor's like, "Hey, Bob, what do you do for a living?" Are you going to say, "I'm a Secret Service agent"? Sure. So you're not going to keep that a secret?
No, it's no big secret. Yeah. I mean, they give you a goofy car with these antennas on it, and it's really not a secret. The great thing though about being in a field office is that, and this is where, if you've got attention deficit disorder, it's perfect, because you go in on a Monday morning. If you didn't get called out on the weekend, you're going in Monday morning, and it'd be a whole new world.
Yeah.
You may be leaving that afternoon to go somewhere because the needs of the service. The president's going to, Taiwan, so we need a number of people to go to Taiwan. Well, they're certainly, the president's detail is going to lead that effort, but they also need additional people, so they'll randomly choose them from various field offices. So, even when I started in Louisville, my first day on the job, they gave me a rattle trap of a car, and I drove that home that night. The next day I drive in, and by sundown, I'm on a plane to California for President Clinton visit in California. I get rolled from that into the RNC, the Republican National Convention, in '96. And, this is before cell phones. I think we had a cell phone, but it wasn't actually turned on because we couldn't afford to pay for that part of it. But I couldn't get a hold of my wife. So, I wish I had the note that I left her on the table. She was out buying groceries. We didn't have any groceries. And she's out buying groceries. I tried to call the house, didn't get an answer. I drove home to pack very quickly and then beat feet over to the airport that I've never been to. And I don't see her in the interim, so I just left a note on the table that said, "I'm headed to California. I'll call you when I get there." And that's the life of a Secret Service agent.
Yeah.
We've got another. We call it our Secret Service family portrait. When we lived in Mississippi, it's my wife and 4 kids, and I'm not there because I got called out. We had this kind of expensive, photo op set up in the Grove at Ole Miss, and the lighting and all the stuff's got to be just right. And so it was all set up, and I get called out where they couldn't cancel that appointment. So, and she was pregnant anyway, so she didn't know it. So we kind of a joke in our family.
Yeah. Wow. All right. So one of the things you mentioned, the goofy antennas on the vehicles, the vehicles that Secret Service agents have at field offices and company vehicles outside of what they're driving protective details around in, are they anything special, or they're just run-of-the-mill?
Well, they're special because you get a gas card with it. But no, there's nothing special about those cars.
The antennas, is there like specific comms that are in them that are, what is it?
Yeah, that wasn't fair. They've got radios and sirens, they're programmable radios that you can encode and encrypt and all that. So there is some equipment in there, but there's it's not like in the old days when they bought the cars with the big engines and all that stuff.
Supercharge them, run flats.
No, the government's much too smart for that now, and so you're getting low bidder on whatever company was selling to the government that week. And in fact, I think now they may even be in rental cars that they're allowed to put radios in.
Yeah. All right, so you go to Louisville first. How long were you there for?
4 years.
4 years, and doing all the kind of standard beginner new guy stuff of.
You bet. Yeah, criminal investigations, all financial crimes.
Like what kind of crimes are you investigating as a new Secret Service agent?
Yeah, back then we did Treasury checks. I hope they're not still doing those things because they're next to worthless. I don't know who's still getting a Treasury check in the mail, but it's a big mistake because thieves are looking for those things, and they're just too easy to rip off the government. But we would investigate those. The biggest thing that we were doing was counterfeiting.
Yeah.
And counterfeiting was a nuisance, but not a huge financial crime in terms of impact on the economy. And so the upcoming thing back then was more cyber. I just wasn't smart enough to be a cyber guy, so I didn't have any skills in that area and really wasn't interested in learning. So I missed the boat on that, and so what I did focus on was bank fraud.
Okay.
And a number of the banks would have thefts, internal or external, that they wanted investigated, and the Secret Service and the FBI shared jurisdiction over that, so we would have to kind of work out a little turf.
Yeah.
But I loved it, and that's what I kind of, I don't want to overshoot, but that's what I became known for there, is the guy who would do it, even if nobody else would.
Yeah.
And so I started taking a lot of ground ball financial crime investigations, even if it was teller embezzlement type stuff.
Oh, wow.
And had a lot of success getting eliciting confessions over that. So, no good deed goes unpunished. So I kept getting them.
Yeah. You said there was, I'll throw the words in your mouth, kind of a pissing contest with FBI sometimes.
Sure.
Was there ever a time where it was a scene like a Tommy Lee Jones movie scene where there's you're out of your fucking jurisdiction? Was there ever any of those kind of slapping the dick on the counter moments? Never?
I'd love to say yes, but no.
You should just lie and
I
say
should
yes.
lie. I should just tell you, yeah, and I knocked him out.
Yeah.
But no, there wasn't.
Never.
No,
Man.
I think I did have one case where I think that conversation may have taken place, but it was over my pay grade.
Oh, I gotcha.
And so I'd initiated a case, and I did all the right things, in terms of notification to them, and I grabbed this thing and ran with it. And when it made the front page of the Louisville newspaper, you can bet they were burning down our door saying, who, what, when, where, why, and how. And it's like, we did notify you real quietly, but we did. Yeah. And so I ran with that case, but it was bank fraud, it was, and so concurrent jurisdiction.
Yeah. So, with bank fraud, that's such a vague charge. Can you kind of Reader's Digest version give us what all constitutes bank fraud? Yeah.
Well, there is so many different types of bank fraud, and it's really evolved. But it started with like check kiting. If you were bouncing checks and or counterfeiting checks, that was pretty popular back in the day.
Like the catch me if you can.
Absolutely,
kind of
yeah. That was a great example, big bureau kind of thing, and international flair. So, but the stuff that I was dealing with was a whole lot smaller scale, and much more localized. So what I had was that front page story actually was an oncologist in Louisville that was beating the banks at their own game, and so he was borrowing money fraudulently and just not paying them back.
How do you even start to try to do that?
Yeah, you and I wouldn't be allowed to do that, but back then at least, and I hope it's not still true, a doctor could walk in and sign a note that says, yeah, I'm good for it, and they'd give him $500,000 or $1 million, and that's what these banks were doing. Wow. The thing was, he was going to every bank in town, and then he was gambling that money and lost it all. Jesus. That night was $7 or $9 million.
Jesus, $7 to $9 million.
Back then, that was big. These days, that's not that big.
Yeah, that's still a lot of money. But
yeah,
man, that's crazy. I guess so. There's no if you or I go in, it's like, well, what collateral do you have? Let me see your house. Let's see an appraisal on it. So there's none of that. It's just, I'm a doctor. Trust me. And they're like, yeah, okay. And here's the money. It's that easy.
Back in the day, there was a lot of, Wild Wild West, I think. And you and I we'd have the screws put to us, and we want to see it.
Well, to me nowadays, it's like you have to check so many boxes that it's like, if I had all of those things, I wouldn't need to borrow the money.
Well, that's what I was thinking too. It's like, the rich get richer. It's like, you can't make this up, but really?
Yeah. It's like, I want to borrow $200,000. Well, do you have at least double that in the bank now? No, if I did, I wouldn't be fucking asking to borrow it. Right. Shit boggles my mind. All right, so for the 4 years there, did you go from there straight to protection details?
I did, sure did.
And was that something that they just voluntold you to do? Did you volunteer for it?
Yes.
Both?
All along, you're getting touches. So the first trip that I did, 2 days on the job, was to California with President Clinton, sitting president. And you're given a nothing position way out, and you're biding your time, but you're also checking things off experience-wise in terms of your abilities and all your experience. And so everyone is doing that. Everyone is working the president. Everyone's working the vice president. Everyone's working everything. And it just kind of falls the way it does. But at some point, based on what you're seeing, you had to list your preferences kind of in order. And, you know, my silly notion, I guess I call it silly. I write about this in the decision points chapter in my book, because my thinking at the time, we just had our first child, little girl, and now we've got one on the way. And my common sense notion of what I ought to do was that I should go to the Carter detail. You know, I should put in for the Carter detail. You can just tell them what you want. You don't get to pick necessarily. Yeah. And you know, my wife listened to me tell about that, and she said, "So you're telling me we're not going to go to D.C.?" And I said, "Well, not if I get accepted for Carter detail."
He was in Atlanta?
He was, Plains, Georgia.
Okay.
And so she listened to me hem haw about how I'm doing the right thing by the family, and I'm gonna take one for the team and all this stuff. And she said, "Well, that's kind of disappointing." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she said, "Well, I was kind of looking forward to going to D.C. I just want to try it." She grew up on a dirt road in Mississippi. She's ready to see the world. Yeah. And so I was like, "Well, golly, I mean, if maybe I need to recalibrate the way I'm thinking about this, because I've been thinking, I need to do what's family friendly. I need to, take care of you, and I got almost 2 kids now." And she said, "We're going to be fine. Yeah. You need to go do what the Lord wants you to do." And so it's like, well, maybe I need to rethink this. So literally when I went back to work, I put down that my first choice was the president's detail, and my second choice was the president's detail. My third choice was the president's detail. Yeah. And I just liked what I saw. I liked what I saw in the people who were doing that job. They treated me well when I came to play, and I just thought, well, if I'm going to go to D.C., I'll put in for that. And back then you could do that, but they made a little issue of it when my number came up, and now you can't do that. So I think I ruined it for anyone else who wants to do that. But so I was selected for the president's detail. Funny story that I do tell, but the traditional notion was that you had to have someone pushing and someone pulling to get where you wanted to go. And I really didn't have that. I might have had a little push coming out of my office, but we were in Seattle for the World Bank thing. I think that was in '99, where they had all the riots and all this bad stuff, and President Clinton was there, and he stayed at a hotel, and I was the midnight shift, and I was actually the senior agent there on the midnight shift, which is pretty amazing considering I only had 3.5 years on the job. Yeah. But it just goes to show you how much hiring we were doing right after I got on, because I was special. The ones after me were not. Yeah. and in walks Don Flynn, who was the special agent in charge of the detail. And for us, maybe like y'all, this would be like, the 4-star general walking in, and everyone's, straightening up, and there's only one seat left in the room, and it's right next to me. I'm working the radios, and I'm like, this is not where I want to be. I know who that is, and I don't want to talk to him. And he literally pulled his chair up to me and sat perpendicular, looking right in my ear, and said, "Who are you? And tell me all about you." It's like being on a podcast, And so Don Flynn raked me over the coals. It turned out that it was like being interviewed. Yeah. And it wasn't 2 weeks later, he was calling saying, I want him on the president's detail. Wow. When can you let go of him?
Yeah. I mean, did you think that the interaction went well, and that you were knocking it out of the park as far as your interaction with him? Or what do you think made him decide that's the fucking guy I want?
I did not set out to impress him, which is probably why it went well. He ended up telling me that he was from this little town in Indiana. I remember the name of the high school was Frontier High School. And I said, oh, you went to Frontier. I went to Harrison.
Oh, that's probably a big part of it. Maybe.
And so there was a connection there. But see, I still wasn't thinking, well, I need to impress this guy. So I said, yeah, I remember Frontier because I threw 2 no-hitters against them. And he kind of liked that. But the other crazy thing was that he started telling me about I told him Dad was FBI, and he, I think that kind of enamored him a little bit. And he started telling me about I think he's his godfather, who was FBI. And I'm like, well, I know that name. I've heard that name my entire growing up. So now we've got this in common. And I was like, yeah, I know that name. I don't know that I ever met him, but I know my dad knows him because he would come home talking about him.
Yeah.
I get home, call my dad. I said, hey, Dad, you remember, Frank, I think was his name or something? And he said, yeah. And I was like, well, I just met Mr. Flynn. He's the head of the president's detail, and he knows him. It's like his godson. And I can tell something's not right.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, when Dad told me the history there and about how they about came to blows, and my dad told him, hey, one of us is leaving town and it's not me, so you're gone. And Dad was like that. He didn't put up with anything, and this guy tried to get him fired, so he was done with him and ran him off. And he actually retired over it. The other guy did. And when I told him, he's like, well, he said, you're cooked because if he talks to him and my name comes up, you're in trouble.
Yeah. Wow. You obviously never talked to him, probably.
Oh, we didn't. I never brought it up again with Mr. Flynn. No way.
Man. All right. So he says, I want you on the team, and next thing you know, you're there.
And next thing I know, I was there.
Yeah.
They used to do what was called a look-see. They would fly you to DC.
Pretty technical term.
Very technical. Yeah, we're all into technical stuff. And they would fly you to DC, and you would do a 1 to 2 week temporary assignment with the president's detail. And so, if they didn't, people know you, and they'd almost like get to vote, and try to blackball you or something.
Or say, yeah, that guy's good.
Yeah, and hey, not everyone's got the same temperament, personality, et cetera. And if you bring a big ego into that environment, it just doesn't go well.
Yeah.
So, but they had quit doing that, and so I've always said that was my look-see, with Mr. Flynn. And Village Idiot probably knocked it out of the park unintentionally, just because
because you weren't the tool bag trying to over-impress.
I didn't even realize I needed to. So.
Yeah. Well, to me, I as I'm kind of coming up with this question in my head, I feel like I already know the answer. But, from your perspective, is the band security mentality kind of what makes a good presidential protective detail agent good at their job in that, or even make like the Roadhouse, like be nice, like, you're not here to fuck people up and be a tough guy and slap your dick on the counter or whatever and be an asshole. Like it's your job to protect the guy, and that's it. And to be as, civil and nice and friendly and accommodating as possible in the process. Is that accurate?
It is. And this is what I've been saying more recently in speeches and some writing, is that what I consider the culture and I assume it's true on the vice president's detail as well, is the humility is a tactical asset. And the truth is, if you don't have it, you're not going to fit in. I mean, nobody needs the hero, coming in and it just doesn't play well. You really stick out if you come in and you're all about you.
Yeah.
So one of the greatest assets that the Secret Service has, I think, is their small size. I mean, it's just a tiny little agency, very, very old, but still little bitty. And so every endeavor we undertake, whether it's a protective endeavor or an investigative endeavor, the first thing we do is ask for help, because we know ahead of time that we can't do it on our own. So, I mean, I've been to 74 countries and almost every state in the union, and it was true all across the world that the first thing we would do is go ask for help. So we arrive in, Djibouti, Africa, and we're meeting with the locals to find out, what assets do you have? What can you bring to the table, and how do you think this would go best? Because it's your country, it's your city, it's your state, you know, without that, I think Secret Service is just like so many other agencies. But with that, I think that makes us approachable. It makes us a lot more collaborative, and frankly, I think that's baked into the success of the Secret Service is when we collaboratively, you know, lean into that weakness, our size and our capabilities to say, what do you got?
Yeah.
You know, what do you bring to the table that we could use? Because we can't do it on our own. We know that ahead of time. So I've always considered that kind of a tactical strength that we could go in. You know, nothing worse than thinking you got it and then you don't.
Yeah.
And it's hard to back that truck up. A whole lot easier to go in and say, thanks for those 10 bodies. Do you have 20 more?
Yeah. Because
we need it.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds like it's almost kind of like a Sun Tzu kind of approach of, you know, you're not facing it head on. It's more, you know, smile and nod and be accommodating and ask for help and be polite and, you know, hope that plays better in your favor, which it generally is, as opposed to, you know, I can only imagine, especially if you're dealing with another country's version of yourselves or their security forces of whatever variety. You know, they're not going to take too kindly to you coming in and be like, this is how shit's going to run, you know, and they're going to be like, well, fuck you then.
Yeah, that just doesn't play.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't play anywhere, not in any realm that I've seen. And I know there are other agencies that have a reputation for that, and maybe they're big enough to pull that off, but we're just not.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
I mean, for an example, you know, you go overseas on a presidential advance, you'd be unimpressed with how many people we send to accomplish that.
Yeah.
it's not many people.
Yeah.
And the ranks are all journeymen.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like we're sending supervisors over there to get it done. We send rank and file agents to go get her done.
Yeah.
And then we send the supervisors to make sure they got it done, but they always do. I mean, it's just that's part of the culture.
Yeah. So your first detail was Clinton, right?
Yeah.
And so when you showed up, from the time that you know, feet on the ground there, assigned to that unit until you're actually like within earshot distance of Bill Clinton, how long was that?
About an hour.
No shit. So right away. And I mean, about how many guys are going to be dedicated to a active president?
Well,
like
they probably
time.
don't want me saying that. Yeah. It's continually growing.
Yeah.
You know, it's always growing. I think back when, you know, Clinton Presidential Protective Detail Division, I want to think maybe there was 400.
Oh, wow.
People, but you think about the iceberg. You're seeing the tip of the iceberg, and that includes the First Lady. That includes back then. That included the counter assault group. That included every other type of asset that we're utilizing to accomplish this one mission. And I do remember my first day. You have about a week of kind of acclimation and sort of training, but my first day actually working the shift, when you get thrown in, you know, you step into this briefing room underneath the West Wing, and it was classic. I mean, it was nasty, dirty. You're in the West Wing, and this office, and it was already decided that they were going to redo it, so I just think they had kind of let it go. But it was almost like Soup Nazi from Seinfeld. I took one step in, I took one step over, and I sat down on this awful couch, and I kept my head down, waiting for someone to speak to me, and someone did. You know, this guy Mark came over and said, "Hey, what are you, new guy?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Hey, I'm no sir." He said, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "Well,
shouldn't you know?"
I'm protecting the president. He said, "Yeah, I got you." He said, "Do you know your way around?" I'm like, "Well, sort of."
Yeah.
Come with me. And so we walked around, and President Clinton was there. It was his last year in office, so he wasn't doing a lot of travel at that point. And the Monica Lewinsky thing had already happened, and the dust was settling, and so it was a pretty calm time to come in, and then 1 year into it, the Bush administration came in, and so I was there for that transition.
Yeah. So I mean, with that Monica Lewinsky thing, I mean, how much dialogue goes on between agents behind the scene or even on the job, but just of shit like that, of either scandal stuff or, oh, did you hear like, is there at least some of that? Because I can tell you, like, team guys would be the fucking worst at that. Like, I mean, it would be a full-blown sewing circle, you know, sophomore in high school, gossip girl kind of fucking just, I mean, like, guys would be talking all kinds of shit about what's going on. And, I mean, there's got to be some of that, right?
I'm sure that there was. Interesting for me at that time because I was in Louisville for all of that with my eye toward that. And I got to see, and then, you know, there were touches, you know, there was interactions. The president would come to Louisville or he would go to Lexington and, you know, you'd be a part of that, part of the larger group working on that. And so you would see and you would hear, and I would see, you know, my boss talking to the head of the detail, and, you know, he's asking questions. He used to be on the detail. So they're, you know, I'm trying to pick up what I can.
Yeah.
And I would love to get in on that conversation. I'd love to know what was going on behind the scenes. But I think, honestly, I think for the Secret Service, that was such a pickle.
Yeah.
Because here we are, we need to be close. We need to be there. We don't need to be pushed away. But we were being forced to testify.
Yeah.
You know, they were subpoenaing us and being, you know, what conversation took place in the limo. And it's like, you know, we don't want any part of that.
Yeah.
We'd rather be left out. Can't we get some immunity over this? And I think we fought it. I think in the end we lost some of those battles. But I think there was a sense, you know, kind of a very grown up sense, even among the pre-detail guys, that this is not good.
Yeah.
You know, we're being put in a position that we don't need to be in. We don't want to be in.
Yeah. 'Cause, I mean, I can only imagine the leading up to that, right? When Clinton was denying that anything happened. And I'm curious, like, I mean, could you as a president pull something like that off with no agents knowing? Or would they have been like, yeah, you know, something was fucking going on? I mean, are there times where the president is in the Oval Office with guests and there's no Secret Service in there at all?
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
I mean,
but you're right outside the door.
You're right outside the door, yeah.
I mean, can you hear muffled conversation?
A little bit.
Yeah.
And it kind of depends on the traffic outside the door. I remember during the Clinton days, I'd be standing outside the Oval Office, and it was just it was like I-35. I mean, it was jacked up. I mean, there's people coming and going, and it's loud, and you couldn't possibly hear anything from behind the door. And then when the Bush administration came in, and of course they had just a fraction of the staff initially, it was so quiet you could hear
what's going on.
You could not that I could hear every word, but it's like, well, that's the president talking.
Yeah,
I've never heard that before.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, again, trying to think of it from a practical standpoint, with it being that busy, it's the president of the United States, just the fact that some young female intern is in the Oval Office with the president alone for a significant amount of time, like, that by itself is going to make everybody be like, the fuck? Like, okay, I know what's going on in there, right? I mean, that's not a surprise to most guys, I would imagine.
I suspect that it raised a lot of suspicion.
Yeah, because that wouldn't be a normal thing, I would imagine, right?
Likely not, especially not, you know, after hours, kind of later in the evening. And typically the presidents usually aren't in the Oval Office unless there's something going on late at night. And so I don't know what time all that took place. Maybe it was a nooner. I don't know. But you know, there are others there besides the agents. There's White House staff. There's the military mess folks are always there on standby if he wants food or needs something. And then our uniform officers, the Secret Service uniform officers, are there 24/7, 365. Yeah. But you know, the people who were attempting to prosecute Clinton, like, they didn't even bother to look who's actually there, you know, and because those would have been, in my opinion, those would have been a better someone to subpoena, and maybe they did, but I don't think they did.
Yeah, but I guess just, you know, if I put myself in the shoes of one of those guys, or, you know, somebody that's in that world at that time, like I can only imagine when that's going to trial and everybody's like, did it happen? Didn't it happen? That the guys who were there and around would be talking amongst each other like, dude, she was in there for fucking an hour by herself. Come on. Yeah. Like there had to have been some kind of dialogue like that, you would imagine.
I would have to think so, of course. And again, you know, coming in after that, I was not part of the team. Yeah. And so, new guy didn't get any of that stuff. But there's somebody that you know that you could ask that and they would know the answer to that? Probably could.
Yeah.
Probably could.
Well, maybe get back to us on that. Because they're retired by now, right?
Yeah, they got to be.
Yeah. That's funny shit. All right. So I guess one dumb question I had as you were talking about the Oval Office, can the president lock that door from in there and or is it key carded where there's a lot of people that can just come in?
Mike, I don't know.
No shit.
I don't know if he can lock that from the inside or not.
I mean, to me, that's a big deal, right? You'd think.
You know, I'm going to say I think he can.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine.
I think you can. However, we've got a way to unlock it.
Yeah, yeah. Man, that's a dicey thing. If I'm Bill Clinton trying to pull that off in the Oval Office with all of those things being considered, like, why would you fucking do that?
I know some of my buddies are just like, what are you talking about? But I actually think the door locks automatically when it closes. Yeah. And you have to intentionally unlock it. But I don't think there's a deadbolt on the other side.
Okay. Is it like a key card kind of thing for all the rooms there or?
No,
really?
It's old school. I mean, that thing is super old.
So like even the on the resident side, I've never been in there, so I'm kind of talking out my ass. But like, so all the different rooms, there's not, agents have key card access or fobs or whatever to get in and out of.
There are a number of rooms, especially in the Eisenhower Executive Office building next door, where we do have access code cards, but they're also photo ID cards, and of course they're encrypted to grant access to different rooms. But in the White House itself, every place where you need to grant access, it's either you're punching in a number that gets you access, or there's a uniform officer there that says, "Who are you?" and show me your ID, and then they give you access based on what they see, and it's color coded and it's letter coded.
Yeah. Okay. So you were with Clinton for about a year,
right?
And was it mostly there local? What's the synopsis of what all you did in that year for or with him?
Yeah, I got to do what they allowed me to do, which was not a lot. And again, every time you move with the Secret Service, you start over. So you are a complete idiot. You don't know anything, even though you've been on the job for a while. You know nothing, so you're starting over. So advance wise, that is where you acquire your real knowledge and skill is doing the advance. Working the president at the White House or in a local movement, stuff like that. It's not rocket science. It's anybody can be taught to do that. Frankly, the advance is where it's at. And so what you're doing is giving opportunities to grow your advanced knowledge. And they start you out with something simple like a landing zone or an airport or a very small site. And it's kind of like, well, let's see how this goes. Yeah,
proving your worth kind of thing.
You got to prove it. You got to do a number of those to kind of build yourself up. And, one of the hardest things that we will do is a overnight outside the White House. So if you're given the opportunity to do a RON outside the White House, then you've kind of arrived at that level where they're kind of looking at you, because those are very, very difficult. They're very labor intensive in terms of what you need to know, the work that goes into that. And if that works, then you're progressively given even tougher assignments. And so doing logistics in a foreign country, that's a very difficult task. When I was sent to do it both times, I guess I didn't get it right the first time, so I got to do another one. It was one person. Two. Now they always send two, which is probably wise. Yeah. And then ultimately you're looking to be a lead advance agent where you're in charge of the team. Yeah. You're still a journeyman level, agent on the detail, but you're when you go to a lead school, about a week or two long school where you're, given some extra information to think about and process, and then go do it, and you get a lead advisor on your first one in country.
Yeah. Bill Clinton seems like that kind of, bordering on sociopathic, charming, silver-tongued, like Southern gentleman. Like, is he that way towards agents? Like a nice guy, like treats you guys well?
Absolutely.
He was.
Yeah.
Like, did you ever see him be a dick to any of the agents?
No.
Never. Is Hillary as big of a bitch as she seems like she is? Because she seems like a total bitch. I mean, if we're being honest, like she does. Like, did any shitty treatment from her? Of course, that was way back.
I never saw it.
Yeah.
Now, I was never assigned to her detail or to an advance just for her, where I got to see her, in the kind of action that we've all heard about it, but I never got to witness any of that. In fact, I remember when I got to the president's detail, we were doing an in-town movement somewhere, and actually no, it'd been out of town because we were getting on an elevator, and when the president and first lady saw Don Flynn with his tuxedo on, she was complimenting him on his attire and, oh my, don't you look nice tonight? And so I just, I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying I just didn't witness it. So I certainly heard the rumors, the stories, and the jokes, but I did not witness any of that.
I guess so. Your entire 24-year career, not all of it, but most of it was spent in protection details. Was there ever a time where you saw a president like lose their temper or be a kind of a rude dick to an agent?
I don't think so.
Wow.
I did see a national security advisor.
That was being a dick.
Pretty big, yeah. And I got to see that up close and personal because he was looking me in the eye when he was doing it.
I won't ask who it was because I'm sure you wouldn't say it, but can you say what the exchange was?
Yeah. I'm going to regret this, I'm sure. We were in London, and there were, I like to say it's about direction, not perfection.
Yeah.
And so this would be a great example where it was far from perfect. And I was in charge of the National Security Advisor, and they received protection. In London, however, they did not consider him a protectee.
Oh, really?
So we were kind of on our own. We had an armored car, we had a follow-up vehicle, and I had an embassy employee who was British as our motorcade lead. No police support, no help from Scotland Yard, and so we had our drivers with a right side or a left side drive car driving on the left side of the road. I mean, it was an accident waiting to happen, and it was a great lesson for me because, here I am kind of new to the detail, I get to do my first advance, and it's the National Security Advisor in London, which wasn't a huge, big choice assignment, but it ended up being one of the hardest things I ever did.
Yeah.
And because you got no support, no help whatsoever, and so I'm in charge of everything from the RON to the motorcade routes to all the sites he's going to visit and all the people he's got to visit. I mean, it ended up being a mouthful. Yeah. And so he gets there, and the next day, we're supposed to wake up, separate hotel from the president for whatever reason. And all we have to do is depart the hotel from the back, make a left turn, another left turn, go across the street into Hyde Park, which is where the landing zone was. And it's like 6 left turns. It couldn't have been simpler. And I remember telling the National Security Advisor the night before, we have to leave at this time because the helicopter is going to land with the president in it at this time, and then you're going to get in the motorcade, and y'all are riding to Buckingham Palace together. So this is coordinated, right? I mean, we've got to match this up, so we can't be late because might have had a habit of being late. So the next morning, the appointed time comes and goes, and I'm getting a little antsy, and the biggest lesson for me was that I had asked the agent in charge of Hyde Park, hey, could you walk me through and show this village idiot exactly where I'm to come in, exactly, just treat me like an idiot because I am, and show me what it is I need to do. And he said, oh, come on, dude, you're a big boy now. And I let it go. And I should never have accepted that. I should have said, no, if I have to fight you, I will, but you're going to show me. And so we made a couple of left turns, and all I got to do is go across to Hyde Park, and there's a huge chain across that entrance, and there's no cop there. And so now we're making a right turn, and I've got this British guy in a little white car in front of the limo who he's not sure where he's going either. And so we're running around Hyde Park looking for Marine One, and meanwhile we can hear choppers, we can see them at different times, and they landed in the wrong order. I mean, everything that could go wrong did go wrong here, and so Marine One landed first. It's supposed to be last. All the assets are supposed to land, and then Marine One lands with all the assets deployed. Well, it landed first, so you've really only got 2 agents on Marine One with the president.
Wow.
And so now he's walking over, shaking hands, being Bill Clinton, with a crowd in London, England. We don't have magnetometers. We didn't have anything. And so it could have been anyone, anything. The national security advisor's being told, hey, the helicopter's landed. So he's going berserk in the back seat. And he's sticking it to his detail leader and, MFing him and just treating him horrible. We get out of the car, and he's got to walk now up and over the hill. We can't see it, but we know it's up over the hill. And he about gets into a fight with this cop who says, you can't go up there. Who are you? All this kind of stuff. And of course he thinks he is somebody even in London, and he's not. Yeah. And so he had dropped his luggage as if he was going to punch it out with this cop who, this cop looked like you at 6'8". I mean, he was just this huge guy, and we're trying to show respect and yet kind of win the battle here. And he picked his luggage back up and he said, who did this advance? Mickey Mouse? And I've had it. Yeah. I've had it. You were late. That's a big part of the problem. I told you what, and I'm just like, you know what? My career's over anyway. I've got nothing to lose. And I said, I got right up behind him and I said, no, sir, I did this advance. And it's like, bring it, pal. I've had enough of you already. Yeah. And he dropped his luggage back down, turned around, and he squared up on me, and he said, well, then you did a shitty job. And I was like, well, I have 2 choices here. Yeah. I can either keep going down the path we're going, or I can just walk away. And I said, yes, sir. The motorcade is that way. And I just walked behind him up and over the hill. And the only thing I ever heard about that afterwards was that he told the detail leader who was my boss at the time, he said, hey, I may have been a little rough on your agent back there. Yeah.
So, at least he kind of came clean once he calmed down, huh?
A little bit.
Yeah.
But I never saw the president get after anyone. Yeah. Now, George Bush, he wanted to get mad at me one day, and we were walking from the Oval Office back over to the White House, and there was a motorcade lined up there, and he's looking at me like, are we going somewhere? And thankfully I had listened during the briefing, and I said, no, sir, we're not planning on going anywhere. Well, whose motorcade? He's a little irritated. And he said, well, whose cars are these? And I said, well, those are the First Lady's cars. And he, you could tell he was kind of irritated about it, all this commotion going on out there, but he didn't double down or anything.
Yeah, it's interesting. All right, so you do a year with Clinton. It's kind of you're getting your feet wet as a protective detail guy. Then Bush becomes the next president. I can only imagine that the role that the Secret Service plays in the transition of power is beyond significant. How big of a fucking nightmare is the inaugural procedure?
The inauguration itself and all that kind of encircles that is a big event. And ever since they started deeming them national special security events, the inauguration is always guaranteed to be one. So it's a big event. We once they deem it a national special security event, then that brings a whole lot of of additional government assets to play. FEMA, FBI, a lot of players. DC has a huge role in that, obviously, and so there's coordination going on 4 years in advance. Frankly, I mean, you're rolling from one inauguration into another in terms of, hot washing what went right, what went wrong. Here's the way we want to do this next time. This was stupid. This was good. This was, all that stuff. And and that's just for an inauguration of a sitting president. When you have the transition from one president to the next, it's even bigger. And you have the formation of a new detail, the former president, Obama or Clinton or Bush detail, and then, the kind of this handoff.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting because some of the agents who worked this candidate into being the president are going to come with. And so there's a little bit of a wedge there where it's mostly the PPD, the president's detail, stays. But then there's an influx of fresh meat that comes with a new president, and then some of the people also go with the outgoing president. So it's pretty smooth, honestly. We've done it enough and seen that enough that we've got most of the kinks worked out. And I was there for really two of them because although I was a little late to the party because we were moving from Mississippi back to D.C., I came back in with Obama.
Yeah. So with that, obviously even presidential candidates have Secret Service protection at a certain point. Do those crews stay with that agent all the way through, with that candidate all the way through until, once they get elected and then they actually get in office? Is that usually the same crew of people just moves along with them?
I got a good government answer for that. It
Depends.
It depends. I mean, what they're doing is we'd love to build in as much consistency as possible. And I was put on Senator Obama's detail, living in Mississippi, but every 3 weeks I would rotate in for a 3-week stint and then rotate back out. So you've already got two completely separate details, and he goes to bed with one detail and wakes up with a different detail. The detail leader, the assistant detail leader, all the agents are new, and for them it's got to be a nightmare because they're where's Billy? Billy's gone. Yeah. And then when they move into and it's growing all the time too. So as a candidate, I think as it ramps up to being the nominee or being the president-elect, you get a lot more assets, resources, and action going into that effort. So that at the point at which you're now headed to the inauguration of yourself to be the president, it's pretty much game on. You've got a presidential size detail with you, and it's just the players are going to change.
Yeah. That all makes good sense, and to me it just sounds like a logistical nightmare. Which I know that's a big part of the gig. All right, so you're with Bush. He wasn't in office long when 9/11 happened.
Right.
To me, like probably one of the biggest questions I have wanted to ask you since we even lined this interview up was having you walk us through 9/11 the morning of as a Secret Service presidential detail.
My story is going to be a lot different than some of the guys, but I remember it so well because I had the day off.
Really?
I had the day off, and the reason I remember that more so than the fact that it was 9/11 is because it was the first time in my experience on the detail that I had 2 days off in a row. And depending on who did your schedule, who your immediate supervisor was, some put more effort into that than others.
Yeah.
And so, to have a weekend off was just unheard of, at least where I was. But to get 2 days off in a row was pretty cool. And it was a Tuesday and a Wednesday. And so I think I got babysitting duty maybe while my wife took one or two of them to the dentist. And so she was out at the dentist office with most of them, maybe all of them. And I was at home.
Wow.
And I had the day off. And so, that's hard to say because what I really wanted to do was to get in a fight, I remember at some point we had pagers back then, and my pager went off, and I'm like, oh, this is it. You know, I'm being called in, and I make the phone call, and they're like, hey, pack a bag and stand by. And I was like, hey, I don't need any time. I can be there immediately. Where do you need me? Well, we're not sure. Pack a bag and stand by. And I was, yes, sir. So I packed a bag and I stood by, and then I get another page, and they said, hey, we're just making sure you packed a bag and you're standing by. And I'm like,
motherfucker, I told
doggone,
you,
man. I told you I'm ready to go. I'm ready to kill somebody. I'm ready to do some damage. I'm ready to do whatever it is that needs to be done. I don't care what it is. You know, and so instead of, you know, releasing that energy, I'm sitting there watching this thing over and over and over and just getting madder and madder and madder.
Yeah.
And the third call comes in, and it's not the call I wanted. It was the, hey, we've got a plan. We're going to bring him back to the White House, and we don't need you. And I'm arguing. I'm like, oh, come on. You got to need somebody somewhere. What can I do? You know, I'm just, that is not what I wanted to hear. I was fit to be tied and ready to go. And they told me to stand down. And it was just one of the worst things. It crushed me, because I wanted to be in a fight. I wanted to be in a game. And here I'm being told, we don't need you. And it's like, everybody wants to be needed. Yeah. And I felt
especially
like,
with shit like that going on.
Our country's in crisis. What do you mean you don't need me? And so that was a little hard to hear.
Yeah.
And so I remember we only had one TV at the time, and it was in our bedroom, a little 19-inch, you know, one of those box TVs. And so I'm back to watching this thing happen over and over. And then I get another page. And in classic fashion, hey, how fast can you be down here? And I was like, pretty fast.
Yeah.
And so it was the wildest drive. I-66, we live west of town on right off I-66. And, you know, it could take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half to get in, depending on traffic. And eastbound that night, there were 0 cars, just me.
Wow.
And so I was making straight lines out all these curves in I-66, and I'm apexing every single one of them.
That's awesome.
And I'm just flying. I had a Mazda, or no, I had a Nissan Maxima, and it was cruising.
Yeah.
And I passed 2 cars, I believe, going westbound, that whole entire stretch of I-66.
Wow.
And I go through the East Street Tunnel, and I come up in D.C. proper, and man, I hit the brakes as hard as I could, because now it's dark. And it was nothing but blue and red flashing lights and a spotlight on me. And I realized that I think it was a tank and a big military checkpoint. And D.C. has been militarized, D.C. police and all that, and a lot of big guns pointing at me.
It's like martial law lockdown.
It really was. And, you know, they just weren't expecting cars.
Yeah.
And I was definitely getting all their attention. And I was like, hey, whoa, good guy here. I don't. And so 4 checkpoints before I get to the normal checkpoints at the White House, and it was a welcome, you know, to get to that checkpoint and to get in there, and so the decision had been made to, you know, without my assistance. I don't know how they even did that, but they did it without my assistance. Decided to bring the president back to the White House for the night, and that was a hard-fought decision. That was a difficult decision, because there was so much unknown. Mm-hmm. There were all kinds of rumors about other planes out there, about a ground attack, about all this stuff, you know, and so we just didn't know. You didn't know what you didn't know, and we'd just seen that they were capable of hijacking jets and flying them into our buildings, and so we just, you know, it really made you uncertain about a lot of things, and so I get in, and we get the briefing, and here we are for the midnight shift. Now, I'd been up all day, so I didn't have, you know, the opportunity to sleep or anything like that, and I don't feel like I needed it, honestly. I was pretty much ready to go, and of all the nights that I worked at the White House, you know, you're always at some level of ready for someone to jump the fence, for shots to be fired, for, you know, something to go down, and we had plans, we had protocols, we had practiced this stuff. When the president's not in the White House, it's Secret Service in there practicing evacuations, practicing, you know, what we're going to do in the event of X. And so, and I feel like I can tell this story now, but is sometime around midnight. We get this crackle over the radio, and it's our Joint Operation Command Center saying, and I can't remember the word that we had for it, but basically, if you hear this word, it's like stop what you're doing and listen. And crash. They would say crash. I don't think they do that anymore. It's a crash, 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 and then game on. And what we got? We got a fence jumper. We got some crazy in Lafayette Park shooting off bottle rocket. What do we got? And they said inbound aircraft. It's like inbound aircraft. Everything's supposed to be down. And so inbound aircraft was like, do what? How's that even possible? Well, shoot it down, for heaven's sakes. What why are you telling us? It ought to be smoke already.
Yeah.
Should be done. And so then they give you the speed, the altitude, and the direction. And all of those were very bad.
Like significant?
Significant.
Like fast and low?
Very fast, not very high, and on an absolute beeline for the White House. Well, what we found out in the aftermath was that a lot of navigation equipment for airplanes, Washington, D.C. is queued on the 0 milestone, which sits on the south grounds of the White House. So if you point yourself to D.C., you're actually pointing at the White House. So they're tracking the trajectory of this thing. They're trying to reach out to it. They're not getting a response. It's not giving off the right beacon call. It's just not doing anything right. So jets are scrambling, and we're presented with, here's how much time you got to live if you don't do something. Yeah. And so we get this information, and our boss that night, his name was Jeff, just a classy, straight up great agent, one of the finest people I've ever met, much less an agent. I mean, he just aces. It was his decision, and he made the easy, really, decision to evacuate the White House, which then meant going to wake up the president and first lady who just got to sleep.
Yeah.
It's been a day.
Yeah.
And so now we're going to go wake them up, and you better be right in your assessment.
Yeah. How do you wake up the president?
Very carefully.
I mean, do you knock on the door? Do you open the door?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Both?
Yeah, both.
So,
both. Knock and go, because time was kind of the essence here. So it was, kind of a knock, announce, and grab you by the shoulders because you don't know what planet you're on.
Yeah.
And let's go.
Wow.
And let's move. And okay, grab the house coat, but let's go. And so it's boxers and nightgowns and house coats.
Really?
And let's go.
And I know that, you've got to be careful about some of the protocols of what all that entails and where they go and how they do it. I mean, of what you can talk about, can you talk about any of that? Like, is it down and out through the bottom? Is it, can you say
it's
anything?
Tough.
Yeah,
no.
I can't really say anything.
But you know what? And that doesn't even tell the best part of the story for me, because the decision was made to evacuate, and all I'll say is we evacuated.
Yeah.
But not all of us. And this is what I remember so well, is that the decisions made to evacuate. Now, there's still a little thought process that goes on here, because our protocols at that point were built around a ground attack. You're under attack, whatever it is. And so we do a hostile evacuation. Get them, grab them by the scruff of the neck if you have to, and let's go.
Yeah.
Chicken walk them out if you have to.
Yeah.
And so that's what we were doing. But based on where you were in the lineup that night, you had to think, because you have a different response and a different role based on where you are, and we're continually rotating.
Yeah.
So every 15 to 30 minutes, you're rotating. And so where am I and what am I doing? And you get to where, that's the first thing you think of when you rotate. All right, I'm now in this position. If it goes down, here's my responsibility in this effort. And I said recently on another show, I said, it's like duck, duck, goose. You're duck, 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 duck. Valentine, you're the goose.
Yeah.
And I was the goose that night. And so I was to cover the evacuation and then stay behind and fight.
Really?
And so here I am with a very low caliber weapon.
Pistol?
A pistol and a shoulder weapon. I think at the time we had MP5s on that post. And so full auto, for all it's worth, shooting at airplanes, not a lot.
Yeah.
But that was the protocol. And there wasn't time to argue about that. You did what you're supposed to do. I covered the evacuation, and then you stand your ground and fight the good fight. And the uniformed division officers also stay and fight, and so you're not alone. But for me, what that caused was a major reflection. And so I'm thinking, I've got a gas mask, I've got a shoulder weapon, and I've got a pistol and a radio.
And a bad attitude.
And so I literally looked at the structure of the White House, and I looked for what I thought was the strongest point, which was the very end of the house where there's a fairly thick doorway, and it's rounded. And I thought, well, this will either make for a great place to survive, or it'll be a really cool grave, because I've seen what happens when airplanes hit buildings now.
Yeah.
And
it's not pretty.
It's not pretty.
Yeah.
And so I had a moment there to reflect and to think, well, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go tonight. And you know what? I had perfect peace. I was good with it.
Yeah.
It didn't even bother me. I was just like, well, all right, this is how it ends. They're going to put a plaque for me up at headquarters, and I'll be remembered for 10, 15 minutes at least. Yeah. And I remember thinking about my wife and thinking, I've got 2 little kids. Didn't think about my son much. I was thinking about my daughter, and I was thinking, well,
Don't tell him that.
Yeah, no kid. Well, he knows. He's heard it before, but I don't know why I just didn't think about him. But I was thinking about my wife and daughter, and thinking, well, she can do a lot better than me anyway. So I hope she gets a good one in round 2, and I hope he's a good daddy for my daughter. I wish that upon them, but I'll see you later.
That's a sobering thought, huh?
Yeah, well, it didn't last long, because we had this thought, and then luckily it turned out to be, I think what it was, and this would be the first time I ever give my hypothesis, but I believe it was like a National Guard fighter jet that was coming probably from Shaw Air Force Base. So he puts the beacon sound in. He's headed for DC, but he's on the wrong frequency, and he's not transponding correctly. And so
fucking National Guard guys.
That's my guess. And so, but what I understand is that the Andrews F-16 circled around him and locked on, and I think his in-cockpit
spidey senses.
Well, I think he got an alarm that said you're about to be shot down, and he came on the right frequency pretty quick after that and diverted. And the president and first lady were very gracious.
Yeah.
I mean, more gracious than I would have been
in
that situation. Wow. But man, that was it was one of those pucker moments that you had to unpucker pretty quick and then work the rest of the night.
Yeah.
We still didn't know. There might be a ground attack coming for all we know. You just didn't know.
Man, I got a million fucking questions. I feel like I could do an entire episode on this day, but I'll try to highlight the ones that stick out. Did you have an opportunity, or did you take an opportunity to communicate anything to your wife in that window of time of like you couldn't?
No. No, in fact, it didn't even cross my mind to try. I mean, here it was midnight. I hoping she was asleep. And so, really before smartphones and all that stuff. So no, I didn't even.
From the time, what time did you get to the White House?
It must have been 8 o'clock.
Okay. So you had a few hours before that happened.
Yeah.
Like I can only imagine the vibe that was taking place inside the White House in that window before you evacuated. It had to have felt different, right?
It did feel different.
Can you try to describe it?
I can try. It was very sober. I mean, there were typically there was always some fun going on at the White House. I mean, very seldom was it just totally sober. But on this night in particular, there was no smoking and no joking, not among the agents, not with the president, not with the staff. I mean, in the military, it was all business.
Yeah.
And nobody's just in a mood to joke, It just wasn't a funny moment.
Yeah.
I think everybody was really taken aback. I mean, I don't think the younger generation can appreciate the fact that we we thought we were invincible.
Yeah.
And we didn't think that we could get attacked. I mean, we saw Pearl Harbor. That'll never happen again. Well, it did.
Yeah.
You know, we got our ass kicked. So I think there was just kind of shock.
Yeah. I mean, so kind of similarly, I was at SEAL Team 3 in a platoon at that time, and you know, it was West Coast. So like I was driving to work on Interstate 5 South, you know, from North County down into Coronado when it came over the radio that the second plane had hit. So, you know, I'm on my way, you know, and even by the time I got there, you know, there's a mile-long line. You know, now they're like dragging people out of the car, checking every fucking thing. And it took like several hours to get on base. But the vibe and the energy at SEAL Team 3 that day was just so fucking different, you know. And similarly, like it's hard to even, you really can't put it into words. There's just this weird tension and energy, and like, man, not that we weren't ready to go to war before, not that we weren't training for it, but like now it's happening, you know. And it's just in a whole different way, you know. And
I think everybody who had that sheepdog mentality at that point was ready to go.
Yeah, had that same like, let's grab our shit.
Yeah.
One of the things that I heard, or I'm curious if you could shed any light, maybe you don't know since you were off for most of that day, but he was down in Florida, right? Reading.
That's right.
When whoever, do you know the agent that whispered? Was it an agent that whispered, or was it an advisor?
He was chief of staff.
Okay. I guess can you walk through his itinerary from the time he was told? Because there was a period where they were talking about flying him to Colorado, and then they were like, well, let's just keep him in the air. Like, can you describe all that shit?
The only pieces that I remember was that, and then there was a short delay when they were deciding what they were going to do, and he's on camera live, you know, with these kids and all of this, and then I believe there was a motorcade straight to the airport, to Air Force One, and if I remember correctly, the whole goal was to get him as high in the sky as possible.
Yeah.
Air Force One is very well equipped to be the flying command post for a very long time. Yeah. And so when all else fails, that is the go-to. And I think that was a pretty quick go-to that day, especially as big an event as it was, with all of the, you know, the video and the stories and everything. I think that was the plan. And, you know, that's when the Secret Service gets pretty small and the military gets pretty big, because this is the commander in chief. And yeah, he's who America elected as president, and that's what we feel like we're protecting. But at the end of the day, that's the commander in chief, and that's the function that he needed to be in at that time. And so it's almost like, okay, guys, what do you want? You know, and we're turning to the military to say, well, what do you think? Yeah. And I think at that point there were just a few cooks in the kitchen saying, let's get him to Air Force One, and then let's get up high enough that we can make some good decisions. And I think that's what they did. Yeah.
Do you know what the on-station time of race tracking Air Force One has? Is that something you can talk about? Even if it's a ballpark? I mean, is it 15 hours?
And I don't know the term race tracking. So
well, just like just doing fucking circles in the air, basically.
Oh, how long can it last up in the air?
Yeah.
I used to know. I don't know anymore. I can't remember. I think it's a significant amount of time.
Yeah. You've been on it quite a bit, right?
Quite a bit. Yeah.
Is it as cool as it seems like it would be?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, it is. Is there anything that would surprise you about it? Like that, I mean, I know there's fucking Discovery show specials on it and whatever, and they only say so much, but from somebody who's spent, you know, significant amount of time, like, is there a coolest thing or something that isn't widely known that would surprise people that they'd be like, holy shit, like the insider?
I think a lot of what people would be surprised about is what's not on there. You know, escape pods and all this kind of stuff that Hollywood would like to put on the plane. But to me, the one of the most fascinating things about it is how few people are actually on it.
Really?
You know, you once you load it to capacity for a standard trip, it's relatively few people, considering how big the president's entourage typically is. Yeah. And so in the very back, you have a lot of press people who are going to be part of the press pool that day. And then, it's kind of like bottom feeders are the press, and then the next bottom feeders are Secret Service. So we've got our cabin, and then you've got low-level staff, high-level staff, and then the president. And you're really not supposed to go forward of your cabin.
I gotcha.
And
so it's like the Titanic.
A little bit, yeah.
No, you get the fuck down back there and stay there.
Yeah, but the other fascinating thing that people it's like they don't believe me is that domestically speaking, now overseas trips are totally different, but domestically speaking, if he flies to California and back in a day, and you eat 3 meals on the plane, about a week later, you're going to get a bill for those 3 meals.
So, yeah, Evie actually mentioned that
really?
you guys all pay for your own food, and I was like, that's a bunch of shit. That's
well,
bullshit.
What they do, so supposedly, is they add up all the food and alcohol that they use for the flight, and then they divide it by the number of people on the flight.
Really?
And, of course, we only got the food, we didn't get any of those stuff. So,
so there is booze on there?
Oh, yeah.
Also there's stewardesses of some sort, right? Or staff of servers.
It's all military. And they were great.
Yeah. So is it kind of similarly where it's broken up where these servers or staff accommodate the Secret Service guys? These do this, these do the president. Is it broken up that way, or do they do everybody?
I think there probably is a protocol. We would see the same people over and over, different crews, but some are, the president's got his valet. It's a military group of people, and so they're going to attend to his stuff up there, and then you have the regular crew that's back with us, and I got to give them a shout because the Air Force One crews were really outstanding, and they made you feel special, but even if you weren't, I'm just a knuckle dragging idiot that gets to ride on this plane, and
to me, a Secret Service agent that's protecting the president on Air Force One isn't a fucking nobody. The grand scheme of things, that's a pretty special and significant job, and one that, there's fewer people that can say they did that than played in the NFL, so.
Well, that's kind. It's funny though, when you're there and you're in it, of course you're being compared to the people
like
you're around. Yeah, absolutely. And that's you know what? We embrace that.
Yeah.
That's all good.
Is the food pretty normal airline food, or is it's totally different?
No, it's good.
Yeah.
They do a great job with that. The only disappointment I ever experienced was the day, inexplicably, we were coming back from Texas from the ranch. And so, I don't know if it's going to be steak or chicken or, what it's going to be. And it was hot dogs and potato chips. And I'm like, really? This is the best you got? I'm paying for this. This is not what I would order.
Fucking $12 hot dog. What are we at the ballpark?
But they had some reason for that. It was it's what the president asked for, maybe, or something like that. And so, but I do tell in the book a great story, and I'll let it stay in the book for now. But they really took good care of us and treated us really well.
That's awesome. Anything else from 9/11, or I guess even more importantly, or specifically the couple of days after, because that feeling, was like a week long, really, or it was for a while. It kind of felt that, like, to your point, you didn't know what you didn't know, and I think that was the biggest thing, was the fear of the unknown. It's like, well, fuck, is it going to happen 2 days in a row? Is there going to be a ground attack? Like, is Russia or China going to jump in with an EMP, or what was it like in those following days, weeks, et cetera?
I think for us, our whole life was dependent on the schedule that came out on Friday night. And you learned, hey, this is what we think is going to happen, and then there's the reality. But it wouldn't usually be just crazy far off. Unless there was a tornado hits St. Louis and we're going to change everything and drop this and we're going to go to St. Louis, then, or some world leader dies. It just, you could kind of count on this, but not totally.
Yeah.
You got to be flexible. And I think in those days following, it was almost hour to hour. What are we doing? And where do you need me?
Yeah.
And I remember being a little disappointed that not everybody had that attitude. And there were a few people that, disappointed you with, hey, I've got plans and I've got this, and I'm like, and I remember thinking, what do you mean you got plans?
Yeah.
You got plans. I got plans too.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to involve hurting you. Our country just got, knocked upside the head. Drop your stupid plans and let's go. And whatever it is. And I remember there, the movement to New York City was probably 2 or 3 days after 9/11, and I was then in the transportation section, so I was driving the limo or doing the motorcade advance, and we were told, hey, we're going to need a limo in New Jersey where Air Force One lands in case the helicopter doesn't fly. And that just happened a lot. I mean, their tolerance for weather and all this stuff was a lot lower than a car. So, we always had a motorcade on standby anywhere that there was going to be a lift. So had he landed in New Jersey and needed to drive into New York City versus fly, well, then I would have been the limo driver. But to get to that point, you had to step up and volunteer, and I was just surprised at how, there were a few that just wouldn't step up and volunteer, and I'm like,
wow.
What, this landed to you first. If you're not taking it, I am. I'm gonna do this thing. And
yeah, wow. All right, so you were there for the entire Bush administration, both terms.
Actually, no, I was there for the first Bush term. And then his second inauguration is the cover of the book.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that's me walking beside the limo. And that was my last week, maybe my last day on the detail.
Really?
And I rotated out. So it's a 5-year assignment the first time, and then you don't rotate back unless you're promoted back, and I got promoted back a few years later.
And then did Obama's?
Correct.
Yeah. Are there differences? Well, I'll ask this now and maybe simmer on it, and then we'll come back to it, just so that I make sure that I ask it. I am curious if there's a difference in protocols, president to president, or is it pretty Secret Service directed as to how things go and not nuanced by who's in office?
I would say it's very driven by protocol.
Okay. During the entire first term that Bush was in office, obviously you can't walk through, a 4-year period, but can you talk about any things or any situations, scenarios, stories that stand out during that time that are truly memorable, remarkable for whatever reason?
Sure. There are several. And, President Bush really became a hero to us, politics aside. Who cares? I didn't care when I was with Clinton. I didn't care when I was with Bush, what their politics were. My thought was that when you get out of your car down on the ellipse, you leave it in the car, and get in there and do your job. But some made it more fun than others.
Yeah.
And President Bush, there were a couple of things I do remember well. The night that we declared war, and that he initiated the shock and awe. Because he did that from the Oval Office, and I was standing outside the Oval Office, but there were so many media cables going into the Oval Office that they couldn't shut the door.
Wow. And
so the door was cracked open, and at the same time, the Roosevelt room is right across from the Oval Office, and usually the door is closed, but that night the door was open, and the TV was on. And I'm looking at President Bush sitting in the Oval Office behind me. It's live, but there's actually a couple second delay. Yeah. And I'm having a hard time telling what he's saying because I'm trying to listen to both at the same time. But it's when he declared war, and I'm standing right in front of him with my back to him, but the door was mostly closed. And so that was, not a great moment by any standards, but it was a special moment to me to know that, here we go, and he's going to make good on the promise that we're going to, payback's coming.
Yeah.
And here we go. So it was, that was very unique, special to me. And there were a couple of moments with Bush that really stand out. I remember we were on a foreign trip, and the president was in, I think it's Peru, and I was in Cartagena, Colombia, which became famous later, not on the trip I was in.
I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, me too.
Agents having a good time.
I was actually there, but 2 different times in Cartagena. Yeah. This was the first time. And I was responsible for logistics in Cartagena, which was quite a task. But we're watching the president in Peru. Here's all our buddies working the president, and a fight breaks out. And what had happened is that we had all these agreements in place, and then on the day of the event, all these big dogs come in that weren't a part of the agreements, and so they've got their own ideas about how this should go, and your agreement isn't worth anything to me, and so they were blocking the Secret Service from making the walk for the big entry where the 2 presidents are walking down the red carpet. And President Bush, he just kind of a guy's guy. Yeah. And I give him that because at some point he realizes nobody's with him.
Yeah.
And he turns and he looks, and sure enough, he's all alone. And he doesn't just let it go at that. He's like, well, what happened to him? And he stops, turns around, and walks back, and the fight's breaking out right at the threshold of the door. Wow. And there's a great picture of one of my best friends, Mike White, cocked, and he's about to level this guy, and someone hooks his arm and stops him from punching this guy, and so the melee is going on, and people with their back to the president, and he reaches over all of these guys and grabs Nick Trotta and pulls him in with him.
Wow. And
when they turn around and they're ready to punch our president and realize who it is, and of course they stop, and he pulls Mr. Trotta in, and it's like, you can't help but love the guy for sticking up for us like that. Yeah. And to me, that was part of 9/11. That was part of this whole thing where, hey, we are exceptional. We are very different than a lot of the world, and love us or hate us, this is something that we do, and this is something we're going to do. Yeah. And if you're not on board with that, tough. Yeah. But my guy's coming with me.
Yeah. There's another moment that he displayed, at least from what it seemed like, because it was on camera, I wasn't there, kind of a similar significant set of nuts on him. It was when he went to Iraq and was being interviewed, and an Iraqi threw a fucking sandal at him. You remember that? Were you there for that?
No, I was not there.
But if you watch him, and if you're, just kind of remotely cognizant of body language, he ducks it, but then he like stands back up and looks at him like, you motherfucker, like he wasn't scared, wasn't looking for help. It was more like the dude almost hit him, and it was like he wanted to fucking fight him, and you could see it in his eyes. Like it was a very distinct, and that's a reaction. That's not, it's a decision, but that's not something that you can fake, right. In a moment like that, when you're in a foreign country and a dude throws his fucking shoe at you. Like, to me, there was a level of respect that went a notch up when I saw him respond that way.
I agree 100%. You watch his body language, and he ducks, but then in the recovery, it's like,
it comes up like, motherfucker. Yeah, it was like you could just feel it almost, which was awesome. Were you with him when he visited the World Trade Center collapse or the Ground Zero stuff?
No, that's when I was in New Jersey with the car, and kind of disappointed that the helicopters flew, because that meant I didn't get to go. Yeah. But another close but no cigar kind of moment for me.
What about the first pitch at Yankee Stadium not long after?
I was there on that trip, and again, I was driving one of the vehicles. My friend Mark was driving the limo that night, and I was driving the follow-up. So not everyone's glamour spot that night, but I loved it. I love driving the follow-up because you get to be a little aggressive and put the players in action. So that was cool for me. But boy, do I remember that well. Yeah. What a night.
Well, and to me, if I put myself in any of your guys' shoes, I can't imagine the fucking nightmare of trying to protect a president in Yankee Stadium is. Like, how do you even begin to tackle that?
Yeah, one bite at a time.
Like, there's I mean, you can't cover everything. Like, I mean, how do you do it? Like, can you speak at least a little bit to?
I would say we do it.
Yeah.
The protocols are expansive. So, what you do for a small event, you just do more for a big event. So if everyone coming into, it's priority of magnitude. And so if they're going to fill Yankee Stadium and it's a known event that the president's going to, which that was, then we mag everybody, and we secure it, and we get as many dogs. And this is where that teamwork and collaboration comes in, because we can't do that ourselves.
Yeah.
There's no chance that we can secure that and sweep it and make it secure, keep it secure by ourselves. There aren't enough agents in the whole Secret Service to do that job. So we collaborate, and we use dogs. We use anybody's dog that wants to loan us a dog. We got to have 200 dogs on this event, and
there's 200.
Well, no, I was just making that up, but I mean, we don't have 200 dogs, and so however many we needed to borrow, beg, steal, whatever, we would do that. Yes.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing. Any other moments within the Bush first term that you were on his detail that stand out as memorable?
Yeah, there was one, and I tell this story because it's so it was a training moment for me for kind of a small deal, but the president wanted to go over to the cabana, and that was the little building by the pool, and it was middle of winter, I think. So he wasn't going swimming. There's an outdoor pool at the White House, but he wasn't going swimming. So he was going in the cabana, and I don't know what they got in there. They got a sauna and I don't know what all, but maybe it's to make a phone call. For all I know, he just wanted to be alone. And he's wearing cowboy boots and a robe and a cowboy hat, and he's got a cigar going. It's like, this is
Shutter's
classic.
full.
Yeah, we didn't have smartphones, and you weren't supposed to have them out even if you did. But what a picture, And so he goes into the cabana, and I took up. We have a protocol for where you go, and so I went over adjacent to the pool, and you sit and you wait, and you call it out when he's coming back, and we didn't know how long he's going to be in there. Turns out he was in there training the whole winter to ride bikes. And he had a stationary bike in there. The doctor had told him no more running, because he was some kind of fantastic runner. I mean, it really challenged us with that part of protecting him. And doctor had said no more running, but you can bike. And so he's in there killing it on the bicycle.
Yeah.
And we just don't know it, because you can't actually see into the cabana. We know there's nobody in the cabana because we've cleared it, but you can't see what he's doing while he's in there. Well, he comes out of the cabana, and I can tell he looks a little irritated. And he's looking back in there, and he's looking at me, and he doesn't know my name. He says, "Hey." And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "Could you see me coming out of the shower?" And I'm like, what? I wanted to be like, "Do what?" And I said, "No, sir." He said, and he kind of looked back, and he said, "Okay, let's go." And I'm like, what was that all about? And I'm thinking through it, and the cabana had just been redone. And what I believe was he was checking to see, what can you see? Because the First Lady uses that too.
Oh, okay.
And the lesson for me was, if you're going to ask someone their opinion, you don't second guess them.
Yeah.
I think at that point I would have said, well, you go in there and you come out and let me see if I can see you. But he didn't do that. He asked my opinion. He said, "Okay, moving on." And he accepted the answer. And I tell you what, that just tells me a lot about his personal constitution, that you trust people.
Yeah.
Because when you don't trust people, that shows too.
Yeah, for sure it does. Yeah, you second guess it, and man, that's awesome. Yeah, I agree. Like, politics aside, I mean, you can think whatever you want about Iraq, how things were handled, whatever, and that that can be debated till the end of time. But having met him, within the last year, I have a lot of respect for the guy. I don't agree with every decision he made. That there's things that I'd love to ask him, even question him on. But as a man and from a character standpoint, I liked him as a president in many regards that way. All right, so it's a 5-year gig. Where did you go after that?
I had a ball after that. I really thought that I had peaked with the president's detail. I'm doing lead advances. I'm having a good time. I'm the number one whip on our shift, which is why I'm, where I am for the inauguration and the gift that keeps on giving, that photo that was taken that year. But
it's a cool picture.
Yeah, it keeps paying dividends, as it were. But
that's awesome.
I had been interested. There was an agent that was way ahead of me. Her name's Marianne Kenny. I'm gonna give her a shout out. But she was talking about these congressional fellowships that we have and opportunities for agents to, stop being an agent for a minute and go do this thing and be an advisor on Capitol Hill. And to my way of thinking at the time, I've already peaked. I don't know what there is left to do. I've put handcuffs on bad guys. I've protected presidents. I've just done it all. I don't know what's left. So let's go do something different. And so I put in for one of these congressional fellowships, and the guy on the other side of the car did at the same time. I remember showing up and it's like, oh, you're interviewing, I'm not going to get this. And well, we both ended up getting it. And so we actually both ended up on Senate Judiciary Committee. He went to Senator Grassley from Iowa, and I went to Senator Hatch from Utah. And you didn't get to pick who you got. You didn't get to pick what committee you got. But that's what I ended up on. And Senator Hatch was in a unique position because he was the outgoing chairman of the Judiciary Committee. So there's a loud sucking sound at his office as all of his staff is leaving to go with the new chairman, Arlen Specter. So Hatch has a big void on his staff, and so I'm sitting pretty because I come in as the only advisor for him on crime and criminal justice matters. And for me, it was like being dropped in the middle of Afghanistan. I didn't know what I was up against. I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know what I was doing. And within a couple of days, I'm writing speeches for him and trying to give him the best advice I can. 9/11's happened. We're trying to sort out Patriot Act stuff and all of that. And so it ended up being a true watershed moment for me because I got to unfurl my wings a little bit politically to do what I thought needed to be done. And it wasn't like I went in with an agenda, but I was able to react to things and Hatch gave me great cover just to do what makes sense, honestly.
Wow.
And that is actually where my connection with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children came from, because I wasn't smart enough to realize that when the Senate goes into recess, you're supposed to take your leave. So I'm showing up for work and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
And in walked Orrin Hatch. In walked Ed Smart, who was a constituent of Senator Hatch, and his daughter Elizabeth had been abducted out in Utah, and there's nobody there. There's a receptionist at the front desk, and they called me because there literally was nobody else there.
Wow.
And so I came down and met Ed Smart, and we pulled into an office there, and he just, I'm like, how can I help you? And he told me what he was there for. He said, I want to fix the sex offender laws in this country.
Yeah.
He said, this is crap and we need to fix it. And I was like, he's speaking my language, It's like, hey, I want to fix it too. Tell me what's wrong with it. How can I help? What can I do? And I think we were in there for a couple hours before I said, now let me set the table for you here. You're talking to a Secret Service agent who's pretending to be a Capitol Hill staffer. There's a whole lot of really smart people up here, and I'm not one of them. So I tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to do something. I don't know what. I don't know how to do what you're talking about doing, but I will figure it out.
Yeah.
And so he kind of got the right guy in that respect, because I was not about to let this go. And he was making a lot of sense. We had sex offender laws that it was like a patchwork quilt of nonsense across the country with no teeth whatsoever. And we fixed it. And I think in the process of fixing it, and my engagement with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and John Walsh, that ended up being this, what I consider to be a lifelong pursuit and relationship with the National Center and John.
Wow. So how would you kind of synopsize or put a mission statement on what a Secret Service agent does as a congressional fellowship? Like, what's just kind of the core position behind that?
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean?
The great thing about that position is the Secret Service sends you up there with no strings attached. We do not they do not keep tabs on you. They're not asking you to do anything. There's no agenda. There's nothing there. It's almost like they're sending you to college. They're expecting you to come back well educated on how the Hill works, so that we can make better decisions internally. I mean, it's almost too good to be true. But I went up there expecting that they were going to, be pushing my buttons and telling me, oh, insert this here and this there, and hey, could you talk to so and so? And none of that.
So you basically become a staffer for whoever you're attached to. Do you have any idea how they decide where you go?
Yeah, a total accident.
Oh, really?
It was a total accident. They certainly like to ingratiate certain parties and both the House and the Senate side. They try to keep it balanced between the two, and we're small, so they can't afford to send a bunch of people up there at one time. I think there were 3 of us, maybe 4 of us up there at one time, and they were actually up there. The director was up there meeting with Senator Hatch to thank him for his tenure as the chairman. And they were giving him a plaque, or a clock, actually. They gave him a clock because he made fun of it after that. This, kind of cheap clock's got Secret Service seal on it. It's like, hey, thanks for that. And Senator Hatch, he never wasted an opportunity. And so I wasn't there. I was waiting in the wings, but he said, hey, when can I get one of your agents as a detailee? And he's looking at a major void in his staff. And he was smart enough to say, I think we can put one of your guys to work. Yeah. And the director knew that I was just sitting over at headquarters doing nothing. Yeah. And he said, would Monday be appropriate? Wow. And send him over. I want to talk to him. And so I went over the next week and met with him and a couple of the staff. And you're like, let's go. Yeah, wow.
That's a 5-year gig too, or how long?
No, it was actually supposed to be a 1-year gig. And I met with Senator Hatch as we approached that 1-year mark, and I said, hey, I am very engaged in this sex offender registration bill. I will be happy to stay if it's your pleasure. It's up to you. And he said, absolutely, let's keep going with that. And so I stayed for a 2nd year.
Oh, wow. So 2 years there, and then where did you go after that?
I went to the natural conclusion to this peak at the president's detail and then getting a bill signed into law on Capitol Hill was to take a lateral to Oxford, Mississippi.
Wow.
Yeah.
As a field agent there at that office.
Yeah.
Was that something that you asked for, or was it something that you just like, hey, why don't you go here for a while?
Again, it's just funny how things work out, but the resident agent in charge of Mississippi was a friend of mine, and we were down there over Easter visiting my in-laws, and I took a trip over to Jackson to sit with him. He had been my shift leader on the president's detail, so uber respect and admiration, and just a great guy. And so I went over there, and I'm sitting with him, and he starts telling me about how he can't keep an agent in Oxford, Mississippi. So and it's a 1-agent, kind of like an outpost in northern Mississippi to handle everything for the Northern Judicial District, Secret Service wise. And so I said, really, you're having trouble filling that? I said, And he said, yeah, don't act like you're interested in that. Because the assumption was that, with some of the boxes that I checked is that you want to get promoted and go up the ladder. And I was like, my wife's from Mississippi. We've been in D.C. for 6 pretty tough years. And so I was like, hey, I might be interested in that. Let me talk to my wife. And long story short, we're there. Yeah. We got there.
How long were you there for?
2.5 years.
Yeah. Was that kind of just a nice breather?
Well, that's what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, and then it wasn't.
Yeah. The very first thing I did, the first day that I got there, was attend an officer funeral. And then the second thing was that we had a meeting for the 2008 presidential debate, which at that point it hadn't been. Ole Miss had not won that yet, but they were in the running. And I remember calling back to headquarters, hey, we just had this first meeting. If you want me to make sure this doesn't happen, I think I can accomplish that. And they're like, no, don't do that. And I'm like, I'm kidding. Surely there's no chance that Ole Miss is going to win this. Yeah. And they did. Yeah. So that became my thing. I'm trying to lock up bad guys when I can, but I'm coordinating the presidential debate of 2008 between McCain and Obama.
Wow. So that was the bulk of your time there? Or?
Well, and then, of course, they assigned me to Obama. I'm fat, dumb, and happy in Oxford, Mississippi, and I get a call saying, what would you like your campaign assignment to be? And I said, well, I just got out of D.C. I would like for my campaign assignment to be Oxford, Mississippi. And they said, no.
Yeah.
And so, and they had just started thinking about ramping up a detail for Senator Obama. And lo and behold, I get assigned to Obama, and he picked up protection, I think, a year out from when we kind of normally pick it up. And so here I go. You know, I think I've escaped D.C., but D.C. came and got me. And the only thing that got me out of this 3-week rotation where I'm out 3 and home 3, out 3, home 3 was the debate.
Yeah.
And with the debate, Ole Miss now won the debate. To have the debate, they said, hey, we got to put you on this full time. So, so they, you know, out of the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah. Wow. What was your first impression of Obama when you met him? Because, I mean, obviously you'd heard about him. You know, there's a lot of buzz at that time, especially. Like, what did you think? Yeah,
I can't say that I knew him before I met him, protecting him. I was with Senator Hatch for those 2 years, and so Senator Obama was around. I just didn't get to know him per se, and I don't remember much about that first meeting. Although there was a handshake and a hey, you know, thank you, very very friendly. But Senator Hatch called me after I'd been with him for a while, and a couple of people asked me the very same question, which was, what do you think of him?
Yeah.
So I remember this impression, and I told Senator Hatch, I said, well, Senator, I don't know when, but he's going to be the President of the United States. He said, what do you mean? And I said, there's something about him. There's this presence about him. There's this demeanor. There's this locked and cocked mentality that he's got that I haven't seen. And I don't know if it's going to be this election, the next one, or the one after that, but the man is going to be the President of the United States. So, like it or not, you know, Senator, he is going to be that. And one of the things that I saw in him that was and I saw something similar in Condoleezza Rice, was just this unflappable personality. And so we were flying from D.C. to Iowa one night, and we're on a little bitty plane, just a tiny little detail. There were just a handful of us, and we're all crammed on a little, you know, like a Gulfstream or a Cessna, or not a Cessna, but one of those little planes, you know.
Yeah.
And so there's a staffer named Reggie Love, and there's Senator Obama, maybe one other staffer, and then there's 2 or 3 of us in the back, and then a flight attendant. And it's late. We're flying from D.C. to Iowa, and we land in Iowa, and I don't remember what city. It was on the western side. And the protocol that we'd kind of built into that scenario is that I would get up first. The senator had learned just to wait, and I would go forward, and me and the pilot would let the stairs down, and then I would start coordinating our assets on the ground. And the pilot opened the stairs, and I'm looking out, and all the while I'm calling on the radio, and I'm getting nothing, which that happens, you know, wrong frequency, or it's just not coded right or whatever, but we don't have comms. So I'm not getting any feedback. Nobody's answering the call, and when he opens the stairs, it's totally dark. You know, normally we would have pulled up to a place that was well lit, and almost instantly there would be cars there. And a team, you know, the local office would pony up a team and bring in others if they needed it. And I'm not seeing any of that. And it's totally dark, and the only light that I can see is from a maintenance hangar. And then out from the maintenance hangar walks this guy rubbing grease off his hands, and he walks over and he says, hey, I wish I'd have known you were coming.
Wow.
And I looked at him, and I looked back at the pilot, and I said, what city are we in? And I honestly, I can't remember what city he said, but I was like, that's not the right city. Yeah. And I looked back at the pilot, and he looked like he was going to die.
Yeah.
And he realizes he blew it.
Holy shit.
So I'm like, well, I got to watch this. You know, we're not getting off the plane. So now the party's on the plane, and I turn around. I'm like, I'm going to watch every second of this. So he goes back to to Senator Obama. Senator Obama never took his feet off the chair in front of him. I mean, he's sitting there reading the newspaper, got the big captain's chairs, and the pilot, you know, it's not two steps. He probably heard the whole conversation.
Yeah.
And he says, Senator, I need to tell you something. We've landed in the wrong city. And Senator Obama is just reading his paper, and he says, come again? And he said, we landed in the wrong city. It's my fault. We'll get back to the right city. And all he asked was, well, how long is that going to take? And about 30 minutes. Okay. He goes back to reading the paper, and it's like, ooh, there's something about this guy. He's not letting this stuff rattle his cage.
Yeah.
You know, I think other people would have.
Yeah.
I think, you know, there are people with fewer skills in hand that would have let that rattle them, but Senator Obama did not. And I was like, ooh, this guy's cool.
Something to him. Yeah. That's wild. That's cool. And so from then on, basically, you were attached to him for another 5 years?
I was with him for 5 years. And, you know, you start over again. They started me in the Joint Operation Command Center. You're a nobody and a nothing. You got to learn it all again. And I did that for, I think, 6 months, maybe a year. Yeah. And then they put me in charge of access control, which was just a horrible job. It was one of the hardest things I ever did. Yeah. All the events at the White House and all the comings and goings, you know, kind of under your purview. And then they made me the shift leader, and that's what you came there to do. The hard thing for me was I'd already been there for 2 years, and usually 2 years you're in and you're out. Yeah. And the head of the detail, Joe Clancy, came to me and he said, "Hey, you're my pick to be the next shift leader," that's the job you want because it's like the operational quarterback. Yeah. And not everybody wants to do that, but that's what I wanted to do and at least try it. And he said, you're my pick to be the next shift leader, but you got to guarantee me a year. And I said, you got it. I said, let me double check with my wife, but you got it from me. Yeah. And I went home and talked to her, and she said, well, this is what you came for. And so it's like, well, yeah, but it delays us. Because I said, hey, we'll go to D.C. and we'll check out somewhere cool. Yeah. And I stayed for 2 years and 7 months as a shift leader, which, 1 year was typically the burnout rate. I mean, it just, the tempo and all the admin stuff that you got to do alongside the operational business. But
you did almost 3?
I did almost 3, and I just loved it. And I remember the head of the detail at some point became Rob Buster, and Rob just a fantastic guy. And he called me to the front of the Air Force One, and I thought he was calling me up to, give me an assessment of me and my team on this particular visit that we just been on. And he was pretty good about telling me the truth. If we didn't, measure up to his standards, then I got to hear about it, and he was fair. But Rob had called me up to say, hey, headquarters called and they really want you to put in for congressional affairs, go back as a supervisor. And I said, well, that's great. But I'm pretty happy where I'm at. And he said, oh yeah, well, I'm sure you are. But, and I ended up telling him, look, Rob, I will stay until I'm eligible to retire if you'll let me. Yeah. And I said, if anybody wants to know what I want to do, which they didn't, it would be to stay here. And he said, yeah, that's neat. You're going to love congressional affairs. And it was already a done deal. I was just the only one who didn't know that. Yeah. And I absolutely loved what I was doing and would have chosen to stay. The one thing that he said to me that kind of stung, though, was that he said, yeah, you need to let somebody else try this out. Yeah. There's only 4 of you on the detail. And I was like, that hurts because I don't want to be selfish and kind of have been. So I need to let it go. Yeah.
I'm curious if I can ask a few questions about some of the logistics of travel and just your time with Obama, because, to me, that's one of the more fascinating things, just when you think Secret Service, that's kind of the natural inclination is you think the guys that are walking around with the president doing all the things that they do. Is there and this I guess would even extend to the time with Bush too, but you've been to, you say 74 different countries? Yeah. I assume that, some are fantastic to work with and some are just an absolute nightmare and everything in between. What was the worst country that you ever had to go to that it was just an absolute clusterfuck to try to have the president there?
Boy, that's a hard question.
There's a lot of them?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. I'll hopefully I'll surprise you with my response. The ones with the lesser infrastructure tend to be the ones that concern you.
Yeah.
I remember being in Uganda. We were in Entebbe, Uganda, and nothing went wrong. I mean, but the doggone airplane that the Israelis shot up is still sitting on the old tarmac over there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no infrastructure there, and so coming in, you can tell when you get on the ground and you're seeing the advanced team and the work that they've put into it. How do they look?
Yeah.
They're always going to look tired. They're always going to look like they're ready to go home. But I remember getting on the ground in Entebbe, and it's like, you're not inspiring confidence here.
Yeah.
I'm a little concerned. And there were a couple of African countries like that, and I remember being, I believe it was maybe it was Botswana or South Africa. I honestly can't remember which country, but basically overrun with people. And it was when Bill Clinton was there, and he was so popular, and the people were flooding in from everywhere, and the fencing wasn't holding them. I mean, I really thought we were going to have a trampling issue because of the number of people and just how excited they were, and so that. But then on the other hand, London always presented a problem because they probably treated us about the way we treat them. They scrutinized everything. They wanted to know how many weapons, how many bullets, how many everything. And so sometimes it was tougher to operate at the highest peak of infrastructure because, they're going to want to do it their way.
Yeah.
And hard to argue that we don't do the same thing when they come to our country. So, you accept it, but it doesn't make it easy all the time.
Yeah. Is there a best country that was the easiest to accommodate all of your guys' protocols?
Ooh. Well, I know I particularly enjoyed France, and it's so funny because we got so many jokes about why do they make the streets wide and all this kind of stuff. But I got to say they really went all out.
Yeah.
And some of their motorcycle operators that work in the motorcades and things like that, it was impressive.
Yeah.
And then, some of the countries that we don't go to a lot, they tend to step up.
Yeah.
I remember going to Turkey, and, part of what they want to do, they want to impress you. You're part of the entourage, you're part of the show, and they want to ingratiate you and treat you right. And I remember I was still a post stander. I was a pre-detail guy sent over there to help with President and Hillary Clinton going. And I got assigned to the First Lady's Intel team. And, I didn't have any responsibility except to ride in a motorcade and deal with issues as they came up. But these guys want to impress. And so they tried to take me out to eat. They tried to, to learn a little better English because one of them spoke no English and the other one a little bit. But, man, they rolled out the red carpet. They took me to their mosque. They took me everywhere trying to personalize it and to make it better. And I remember we would come back to the president's hotel every night when they were, going down. And that sometimes that was the only time you got to eat was when they got back to their hotel, and so they had a buffet at this hotel in Istanbul, and so I said, fellas, we're going to eat.
Yeah,
we got to eat. So I treated them to the buffet. Big guy, right? Big American. It's $15 to buy them a buffet, and through the translator, one of them said that's the finest meal I've ever eaten.
Wow.
And I just remember thinking, they're listening to me tell stories about how I've got a house and a car and a dog and kids, and showing them pictures of the kids. And they're like, and one of them said, dream life. That's my dream life. And wow. A little hard to take. And then we made it back over to the Turkish presidential palace, and some poor sucker had snuck in there. And he kind of bogarted his way in. He had on a suit. And he held an umbrella for somebody, and somehow he got in. And unfortunately for him, the Turks are the one that caught it. Mm. And but it was my job to go interview him now. and he spoke English. So it was like, well, okay, yeah, I'll be glad to go interview him. And so we went into this Turkish police department, and I mean, everyone in there smoked except me. So it was quite the experience. Cinder block building, 2-story, just just not a nice place. And they had him upstairs. He was, shall we say, worked over.
Yeah.
They had already interrogated him a little bit,
Yeah.
and he's sitting on a couch, handcuffed, and I walk in, and they had told him that I was coming to kill him. So I show up, and he's terrified, and he's trying to speak to me, and he gets up to address me. He can tell I'm the American. And the biggest one in the group stepped forward and just laid him out. I mean, just punched him as hard as I've seen anyone get punched in a long time. Laid him out. Thankfully, he landed on the couch. And when he recovered and came to, he just wanted to talk to me and try to save his own life. And it's like, well, not a lot of infrastructure here. Not a lot of the same type of protocols, but they have a way of doing things. And I tried to tell him that I wasn't there to kill him, but I did need to know why it was that he snuck in, and he told me the whole story.
Yeah. What was the gist of why he got in?
He was just enamored with the president.
Oh, wow.
He was actually a medical student, so he was on his way to being a doctor over there, and he was just quite taken with the whole scene, couldn't get a ticket to the event, and so he figured out a way to get in for a minute.
Yeah. Probably not looking back on it, something you probably didn't want to do.
I don't know if he made a doctor or not.
Yeah. Of all the countries that you've been to, which one stands out the most as one you'd want to go back to and visit?
Well, I told my wife I would like to take her back to Portugal and Austria.
Yeah.
And those...
Have you yet?
No.
Not yet?
No. Those were... And it was probably more to do with the trip. I was having a great time. I was getting to see all the sites. I was getting to do stuff, and I didn't have as much responsibility on that one, so I got to see a lot. But I've loved something about most every country I went to. I mean, I love China. Yeah. I'd love to go back and visit China. There was something about it that appealed to me. I certainly loved Israel. I went there twice. I mean, everything. We just don't appreciate how good we've got it, and I think so much of the time going overseas, you appreciate what you're seeing and then appreciate getting back home.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Is there a diciest scenario in a foreign country on a detail that you've experienced?
That trip to Africa where we almost had the trampling situation was pretty dicey in my book. I mean, if anyone snapped a photo, it was of me on one side of a 8-foot tall chain link fence, and I look like I'm doing calf stretches trying to hold this thing up. And the people are face to face with me. They just want access. They want to see him. They just want a glimpse of him. And it was dicey. Yeah. And I remember the president came out, and I'm not on his detail. I'm just an extra. Yeah. But he had to step over my outstretched legs to get out of there. Oh, wow. And we needed him to keep moving, or it was going to get ugly. Man. But
one of the things in a lot of the international travel that you see glimpses of are gifts that are presented to the president from foreign dignitaries, et cetera. Were you ever privy to see any of that stuff, any of the things that they got?
I was, yeah.
So is there any that would stand out that you can share that you're just like, holy shit, that's cool, or anything like that?
Well, the one that stands out to me was China, and it was when the Chinese came to the White House for a state visit, and the Chinese presented President Obama with a statue of Abraham Lincoln, but they said it was Abraham Lincoln, and it was like a bronze statue, but Abraham Lincoln had struck a very imperialistic Chinese pose, and darned if he didn't look quite Asian.
Yeah, no shit.
But it was Abraham Lincoln, and it's like, really, that doesn't look like a pose that Abraham Lincoln would have ever struck. Never seen anything like that. He had one leg up and was doing it, and it's like, well, that's weird. only to be matched by our gift to them,
Yeah.
which was they had these two guys from Chicago, these brothers that did this painting, and it was in this huge frame, and I'm not kidding, it was as big as this wall over here. It must have been, I don't know, 7 or 8 feet tall and about 10 feet wide, and it was just hideous. I mean, it was just this hideous painting.
What was it of?
Well, it was it. I think it was some American presidents with this big black thing division coming between them. I mean,
That's weird.
it was weird. And my first thought was they're going to fold this up and stick it in the storage on the plane going back to China.
Yeah.
What are they going to do with this thing?
Yeah, no shit.
So it's kind of funny to watch them give horrible gifts to each other and appreciate the moment.
Is there a most extravagant gift that you remember from a country to our president?
No.
Nothing. Because, I mean, some of it's pretty crazy, right? Like,
They do get, some nice gifts. Of course, it's not to the president personally, it's to the country. So it goes to, who knows where it goes, Smithsonian or somewhere.
Yeah.
But State Department, I guess, gets all that stuff.
Yeah.
But, I remember from the news where I think when she was Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton gave someone an easy button or a tape or something. Really?
That's wild.
That's the best we got?
Yeah, well, apparently. All right, so one thing on this book, so you're on the cover of this, you're walking next to the president. Can you tell me what you're carrying in that photo?
Yeah, well, all I have under that jacket is a radio, a pair of handcuffs, and I think at the time we were carrying 357 SIG.
Really?
So it was a SIG pistol, and I've got one magazine in and an extra 2 on my belt.
Really? No long gun under there, huh?
No long gun under there, hunting.
Some do though, right?
Some do, yeah. And I love this picture, and the publisher did a nice job with that picture, but that's not the actual picture that I gave them. The picture I gave them is a much wider shot, and it shows that there are not 2 guys there, there's 4.
Oh, okay.
And then, and I've done this in a few speeches I've given where I show, well, if you open the aperture, it's not 4. There's actually about 20 there.
Wow.
And then if you get an above angle view, you can see it's a sea of agents out there. It's cops lining the street. It's National Guardsmen.
Yeah.
Everyone comes to play, and your hero gets to walk beside the car and get the big photo. But in reality, this is a team sport, and there are so many cooks in that kitchen that have to be there to make that work.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, a little useless walking beside the car. I mean, you're there in case the car has to stop and we have to open the doors. I mean, otherwise, I'm just flesh and bone with a bulletproof vest that probably ain't going to stop a big round next to an armored vehicle. You know, you're just a speed bump on the way to hitting that car. So,
about how far are you having to walk on that day?
I don't know, a mile or 2.
So it's not crazy.
No.
What kind of shoes are you wearing?
I got on dress shoes.
I mean, like just normal
Leather
dress shoes?
sole, yeah.
No James Bond pop smoke, slick oil coming out of them, nothing?
The hard thing is, you were riding on the sideboards at some point. And, when the soft dress shoes came out, I can't remember what brand those things were.
Vibram soles.
Yeah, those things came out. Agents started wearing those and immediately started having injuries because when they came off the running boards, there was no slide to them. And so they were having, falls and knees and ankles and all this stuff. And it, for better or worse, those are just leather Johnson Murphy shoes.
Wow. So you guys have like what if everything, right?
Yeah.
So in this scenario, let's say you, especially being the closest guy to the car, let's say you have a fucking cramp and you can't keep walking. What happens?
Yeah. Well, and I don't think you can see it in this photo, obviously, but there's a whole another group behind us, about 2 cars back, and they're on the running boards. Actually, they're flanking us on both sides. That's why you really can't see them. And one of them would instantly jump in and take my place. And I would try to get back to one of the cars where I could get in. Yeah.
Okay. And with details, staying hydrated is obviously a big thing. Food, not nearly as much. Is that built into it where it's like, hey, we need to make sure our guys have shit to drink at different points. And to me, like thinking of it from a weakest link, poisoning or, things like that, that's got to be a factor, right? How do you mitigate all of that?
Yeah. An awful lot of it is, forgive the term, but big boy rules apply. And you better come hydrated, fed and having slept to do this job, because nobody's checking up on you.
Yeah.
So, a lot of times on these overseas trips, it catches up to people. They're not thinking about that. And we're in a more arid climate, and we always have a medic, White House doc, military guys that they're shoving IVs in people and trying to keep them going.
Yeah.
But every now and then you've got to wave off and call it quits. But there is a protocol for testing and making sure everything is safe, but that's all for the president. You can try to get one of those bottles of water, but chances I never asked for one, just because you take care of yourself.
Yeah. So in that same vein, I mean, when the president is on an overseas trip, and it's there's times where he's gone for like a week, 2 weeks. How do you guys ensure that the food he's eating? I mean, is it brought with, or is he eating stuff like? Or you have people using like test strips for poison and shit, or how do you do that?
And that is actually all in the hands of the military. So they're the
that's
ones
not encouraging.
That's not.
I was in the military. It doesn't give me warm fuzzy.
What they do is all the food that the president eats is ours. It's kind of like the cars.
Yeah.
We don't entrust that to anybody. And the only times that there's an exception to that rule, there is no exception with the cars. They're all Secret Service owned vehicles we fly them over with or ahead of the president. But with the food, and exceptions can be made, but there will be a cook in the kitchen.
Oh,
a military
overseeing everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like if he's in France and the French president's like, hey, this is the best fucking 4-star Michelin, whatever the fuck accolades, chef in the country, he makes this phenomenal whatever the fuck. There are times where he may say, yeah, I'll try some of that. But then the guy, like somebody would have watched everything be made and all that.
Yeah. I remember we took President Clinton to Bulgaria, and it was very late at night, and the president wanted to go get something to eat. So off the record, right? I mean, it wasn't a planned event. Nobody knew he was coming. I was sent there like 10 minutes ahead to see what it looked like, where should we arrive, front or back, and how are we going to make this work? And I've got a Bulgarian counterpart there, and so we try to let them know, hey, we've got a dignitary coming. We're going to need a private room, or whatever you got. Let's see what you got, and let's make the best plans. And the president walked in the back door through the kitchen where all the knives and cleavers and all this stuff are, and these people, and of course they didn't know who was coming. Yeah. They could have figured it out if they wanted to, but they're not thinking about that stuff. And then he ate the local food, but again, we brought, no real chance unless you've got some really deep intel to know that ahead of time, and then we have someone there to oversee what gets put in the food.
Yeah, that makes sense. So like in the photo op of Trump on Air Force One with a fucking Big Mac or a quarter pounder or whatever, in a case like that, is that where like an agent or somebody that the McDonald's staff has no idea just goes in and orders food and brings it to them?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it is actual McDonald's food. It's just bought by somebody that's not going to...
Yeah, usually it's a staffer that makes a food run, and they don't...
Yeah, they have no idea.
Yeah, they're not even telling them.
Yeah. Ammo, in that picture, we'll use that as an example, or even just generally speaking, are you guys just rocking ball ammo, or do you carry like high speed? Does it depend too, like frangible sometimes? And
no, we don't use ball ammo except for target, practice. And but they were hollow point, and I wasn't super into it. I don't remember what it was. It was whatever they gave you, and you were not allowed to substitute out anything. So we didn't change ammo for anything. Yeah. Your duty, we called it duty weapon, duty ammo. Yeah. And here's your rounds, and this is what you use. But when you go to requals to the range and all that, you would substitute out for the cheaper ammo and fire that.
Yeah. So how did you finish your 24 years there?
Well, I went back to the president's detail, and then I'm like a broken record. That was round 2 of that. And then I went to congressional affairs, round 2 of that as as the supervisor overseeing the program there, and then bounced back out to the field, this time to Philadelphia, and I was the assistant special agent in charge there. And stuff just followed me. I mean, what followed me to Philly was the Pope's visit. Still the largest security undertaking in American history.
Really?
It was deemed a national special security event, and Philadelphia had big plans, and it's like, well, I think we can do that. We'll try, and we did, and it was a huge event. And
is it the same as the president going to Yankee Stadium, where it's the protocols, it's just on steroids?
It is.
Were there any amendments or exceptions that you did differently than you normally would because of that?
No, we because it was an NSSE and because it was the Pope, we high level, we treated him just like the president.
Yeah.
So he even flew in Marine One.
Oh wow!
He got the cars that we wanted to use, and then he chose his own cars. Yeah. And so there, some of that was problematic. I mean, he brought his own cars.
Which Pope was it?
It was the current Pope.
Oh, okay.
Was it? I think it was the current Pope.
Yeah. Did you meet him?
No. I got a blessing from him though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not Catholic, but he was boarding the plane, turned around and did this,
cool.
and I was standing directly across from him. So
it's
like, I became Catholic for 1 year, and then I let it go.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I have some Patreon questions from some of our Patreon members. Thank you to all of you that contributed and that are members. I appreciate the support. About your time specifically in the Secret Service, then I want to get into the trafficking stuff that you're currently still a part of. Dimitri Pardina asks, were there any instances in which some of the agents acted in a biased manner, specifically against whomever they were assigned to protect?
I never witnessed any of that.
Yeah.
No. And, like I said, I think everyone respectfully put their politics in the car before they walked in. The only time that I saw it, and it was almost in a passive kind of way, is at Christmas time we would typically get invited to a White House Christmas party, and it's a big deal. There's not a lot of perks, but this is one of them, and so that first year on the Clinton detail, there were a number of spouses who waved off and said, I'm probably not going to do that, and nothing was ever said. Nothing was, there wasn't no reasons given. Just not going to do it. Yeah. And probably people looked at me and said, "Oh, Valentine's wife." Well, my wife was like 8 months pregnant, and my grandmother had been to D.C. one time, and the only thing she didn't get to see was the White House. So you were allowed to bring one guest, and so my 89, gonna die within a year, grandmother got to go to the White House and she got cool. She got to meet President Clinton and Mrs. Clinton and take a photo, and that's neat. it was just a great event. Yeah,
that's amazing. Mark asks, which one of the presidential details pushed the boundaries the most in terms of stretching the limits of providing a security detail and veil of protection?
Ooh. Well, nobody stands out because they all push the envelope in different ways. And so I would say pushing the envelope for me was being unpredictable.
Yeah.
And President Clinton was predictably unpredictable in terms of how late he was going to stay out. He's just a night owl, so we would...
Doing what?
Oh, going to events, meeting people, hanging out, parties and different things, events that just went late.
Yeah.
We would have a plan to be back at the White House at 11:15, and at 1:30 in the morning we're still out, and he's still having a good time, and he owns every room he's ever walked in. I mean, he's just that kind of guy. He's got that personality, that
charisma.
Yeah, that charisma. And so we had a policy of not doing a shift change in the field.
Oh, okay.
So we always did shift change back at the White House for a variety of reasons, and so that was tough on the afternoon shift who thought they were getting back at 11:15. Shift change was supposed to be at 10, but we're going to push it to 11:15, and it's 1 o'clock, and you're still out. And meanwhile, the midnight shift is just
sitting there waiting,
hanging back at the White House, waiting for you to come back. But that was Clinton. President Bush was very predictable. You knew that he was going to be in bed by a certain time, and you knew he was going to get up early and go at it. Now, those running events were a big deal.
Yeah.
And we knew coming in, I mean, we had heard the rumors from his campaign detail that this guy can fly.
Yeah.
But we didn't know, it's like, well, he can run, but how fast is he? And man, he would clock about a 6:20 first mile.
Wow.
And then he would slow down a little bit with mile 2, and then he would realize he slowed down and speed it back up for mile 3. And I tell you, that was hard enough without all the protective gear that you had to wear running. We had to develop a special thing that, because you'd be driving one of the vehicles and you'd see a guy running, you'd see a wire coming out, and then pretty soon the radio just came off and someone pick up the guy's radio, and now he can't communicate, and stuff is falling out. And so those runs were tough because he, not only did we need to keep up, but he would go places where he could go run. And so that presented a certain set of problems. And so they actually built him a running track at the White House. And it was a padded run on the inside, on the south grounds, on the inside of the oval drive back there. But you had to go around it like 9 times to make a mile, and he hated it. So it didn't last long.
That's a great segue into M. Bush Vols question. The first one's, what's the most amazing place you visited in your travels? But the second one was, what's the fastest mile you clocked while running with a protectee? It sounds like a 6:20 with President
absolutely,
Bush.
yeah. That's
fucking moving.
It is getting it for me. Yeah. I mean, I look like I have no excuse not to be a great runner, but I'm just not. I mean, that was very difficult for me, and I had to stay on top of the training to because you didn't want to get dropped. I mean, that happened, and people got severely embarrassed.
I mean, it would seem like, obviously a golf cart wouldn't be realistic if he's on trails and stuff, but like a little dirt bike or something, wouldn't that make more sense to have?
It might, and we did deploy bicycles. We would put people on bicycles to go way out in front. And maybe, kind of we're looking for a 360 sphere. So maybe way out to the side, checking things out, and way out in front, but not right up next to him. It was just awkward.
That sounds like you already answered that first question. Most amazing place would be Austria, or what was the other one?
And Portugal.
Yeah.
Enjoyed those, but I tell you, most everywhere I went was fun. Now, I said 74 countries, and a lot of those were 2, 3, and 4 times, but an awful lot of them, I have to go back and look at a map to even remember them because we weren't there. It's either a touch and go. We didn't even spend the night, and I count it, but it
didn't get the full experience.
No.
Claire asked, very curious about the Clinton detail, but he's probably going to be tight-lipped about that one.
What about it? It was.
I'm assuming she's alluding to, the Monica Lewinsky thing, or just generally speaking, any type of scandalous activity.
No, I got there after things had really settled down. So I wasn't there for the whole, brouhaha. Yeah. I was there for his last year, and it honestly seemed like he was just kind of biding time. I mean, he and if you remember, Hillary was up in New York running for senator, so she wasn't around. She wasn't there much.
Yeah. Does a scenario exist where, let's say you're on a presidential detail, it's 9:30 at night, there's not much going on, and the president comes up to whoever the shift leader is, or one of the main guys that can make a call like that and say, hey, I want to go for a drive. I mean, can he do that? Would he do that?
Probably wouldn't do it, but we can accommodate that.
Like if he wanted to drive, would you let him drive?
It's happened.
Yeah.
And I know it happened. I wasn't there, but I know he used to drive himself pretty frequently in Crawford.
Bush did?
Bush did, yeah.
I mean, like, I
think it was part of trying to be human. You know, he wanted that.
Well,
this is what I always do.
Yeah. I mean, I love driving. Like, I would hate to be driven everywhere. But like in D.C., you're at the White House. Like, is it even realistic for the president to have like a Corvette there and say, "Hey, I want to fucking go for it"? Like, it's not happening.
No.
Yeah. Or if it's Christmas time. Hey, me and the missus want to drive around town and look at Christmas lights. Like, is that something that could happen?
Not really.
Not really.
I mean, the size of even an off the record impromptu motorcade is large enough that it would ruin it.
Yeah.
And we would be saying, could you give us a couple hours to work this
line it
out?
up,
Yo,
yeah.
you want to go to McDonald's? Which one? Yeah, could you give us a couple hours? And
Yeah.
by the time, everything's
just
worked out,
order
it's like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
I remember, we were in, I think we were in Sweden, and we got there kind of late, and nothing's happening. I mean, Sweden was shut down.
Yeah.
And we've got to walk across. It seemed like it was like a river or something, and we're in the arrival tent. We got a tent there, and President Obama looks out and sees that there's this lit walkway beside the river, and he turns back, and it was me and Rob Buster in there, and he said, "Hey, could we go for a walk out here?" And if I remember correctly, the answer was, "Yes, sir, we can. How much time can you give us? Because we just want to deploy some assets out there. We want to alert sniper types that you're going to be out there and just clear the area a little bit." And I remember President Obama, he thought about it and he said, "Oh, just forget it."
Yeah. Yeah. It's not even worth it. Yeah, I can imagine that'd be tough. That'd be a part, even more so than being like a A-list celebrity, because it's one thing to have attention and paparazzi and whatever. It's a whole different thing when the very real threat of your life being taken is significant everywhere you go all of the time. That would be a tough thing to compromise, I think.
I think, it's probably hard for them to appreciate if they've not thought about it. But the fact is that it doesn't matter who they are. There are a lot of people out there that want you dead.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of good that people think they can get from killing you. And so that's the first thing we think of, but I don't think these presidents are thinking that too often. These guys, they overblow everything. What if the sun explodes? I got that one time.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, it's on us. And we take it seriously. And the answer's, we're going to try to say yes.
Yeah.
But give us a minute, and then we'll say yes.
Yeah, yeah. There's a board venture of base molecular resonance technology that you're a part of, as well as if you could just give us a kind of a 30-second elevator pitch of what your involvement in that is, and then I'd love to talk about the WellHouse home and the protection stuff that you did for kids.
Base molecular resonance technology. The 30-second overview is that Einstein and Tesla had this theory, and the theory was that we think elements and therefore molecules are giving off some kind of noise, a sound. There's something there, and BMRT figured out how to listen for that, how to almost like activate that. And so how they describe it is that we can make them sing, and because we know what song they're singing, we can cue in on that song and detect it, pick it up, and therefore identify what you are. And so whether it's an element in the chart, and they've charted every single one of them now, or a molecule, it gives off a different resonance. And they've been able to chart that. And so, for instance, the molecular structure of gunpowder, they've mapped that, they've charted that, they load that into this, looks like a handheld radio almost. They can pick up a .22 caliber bullet at 75 feet.
Wow.
Through a wall. And it sounds, what everyone says is, if that's true, and it's like, yeah, I know, if that's true, they can pick up an M16 magazine loaded at 300 yards through walls and whatever. But at the same time, what's kind of more immediately interesting to me is what they can pick up in terms of cancer and diseases. They can pick up COVID if they want to, whatever you want to load into this thing. And so the great story I love to tell is that they were given a demo of this to potential investors. And so they had a lab slide of like colon cancer or something, and it was colon cancer. And they put it in a bowl of water, a marble bowl, and then they put a marble slab in front of that, and they turn the machine on, and it goes off. Wow. Yep, there's colon cancer right there. Yeah. Threw a marble slab through a bowl in the water. They turned the machine, before they turned it off, they turned it to the left, and it went off again. And the investors are like, oh, too bad, false positive. And they're like, no, it doesn't do that. So they left the room. They went into the room next door, and there were two guys sitting in there, and they said, hey, sorry to bother you, but either of you battling colon cancer? And the one guy, cocked his head and said, maybe. Why are you asking? And he said, well, we've got a device next door that picked up something coming from this direction, and we couldn't see you, so we just don't know. And it's unbelievable, but it's got to be believable what they're picking up and how they can do it. And so disease, explosives, nuclear, whatever it is, you name it, they can, illegal drugs through shipping containers.
So you, in theory then, if this is true, you could do human remains too then, right? I mean, like for cold cases, couldn't they do that?
Yeah. In fact, what they believe is, and they had an example where a friend of a friend kind of lost a cobra in his home, and he had kids. And so they
First of all, who the fuck has a cobra in there?
I know. You can't make this up. I mean, dude lets a cobra loose in his house. He's got small kids, and so they evacuate the home. And they're like, could you please
find this?
Is there any way that thing could find where a cobra is in my house? And so they went to the local university, and they said, is there anything peculiar about a cobra, like DNA wise or something that we could load into this machine? So they loaded in, and minutes they found the cobra. And so what they believe, they've not tried it or tested it, is that yes, if I have your DNA and you're a missing child, abducted, or just a missing person, a soldier who's missing, they can actually find you in a city. Wow. They don't even need to be that close. They can say, yep, we're getting a hit in this city right here, and then they start the process of honing in on where that is. Now, they've not tested that, but everything is pointing to the fact that, yes, you could do that.
Wow. Man, that's fascinating. Base molecular resonance technology.
Right.
And what role do you play in that? You're on the board with?
I'm on the board of advisors, yeah.
For that? Wow, that's amazing.
It's very exciting. And having had a wife that just went through and we believe beat breast cancer, I sure wish we'd have found that out sooner.
Yeah.
And I mean, the possibility exists that you could walk into your doctor's office and they say, do you want the cancer scan?
Yeah. And
they've loaded every kind of cancer into this thing, and it's instantaneous.
Yeah.
And they can say, yeah, you do have, let's try this, and let's only scan for, say, breast cancer, and it goes off and say that doesn't fix it. You need to get checked out. And chances are if you get regular testing, that they're going to pick it up very, very early.
Yeah.
And that's got to be good news.
Yeah. Is that something that do you know if that's going to be a common thing? And I mean, or what?
I believe it's going to be common.
Yeah. But what are the obstacles?
The obstacles are getting it commercially available.
Oh, I got you.
So we're trying to partner. We've made some big announcements with some investors that have come in, and we just need help getting it to that commercial availability. Yeah. So the technology's there. We've got an analog and a digital device, but we're not the smartest, sharpest. So we want help getting it to the next phase, and I think we've got help on the way. Yeah. So it's really pretty cool.
All right, so kind of tying together, you got the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, as well as the WellHouse home. If you could talk about your involvement in both of those and what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. I think it was a natural thing for me coming out of the Secret Service to look for an outlet where I could have this mission mindset. And, certainly doing consulting and advising in the financial sector it's good, and it's tough. It's a great way to make a living, but the mission set is kind of missing. And so I picked up on that pretty quickly when John Walsh has been a friend ever since we named the what I called the Sex Offender Registration and Notification Act. Horrible name, but I didn't know better. When the House got it from the Senate, they renamed it, and then we re-blessed it, and it's like, of course, that's a great name. How about we name it after Adam Walsh, who, the abducted, murdered son of John and Reve Walsh. And so 40 years ago, they created the National Center, and John just never forgot. He's very loyal, he's very appreciative, and so when I stepped out of government service, he said, hey, I'm putting you on the board. Well, he what he meant was he's going to nominate me for the board, and they're going to unanimously approve you.
Yeah.
And so that's the way that worked. And so I serve on the board of directors there, and I chair the Operations and Law Enforcement Committee. The National Center is it's one of my favorite things in the whole world, because it really was born out of this need and this mission mindset to fix something and to maintain it. And the staff, the participants in what is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children are some of the finest people in the world.
Yeah.
They do so much with so little. Shame on Capitol Hill for not funding them permanently.
So with that, I mean, I just want to interrupt real quick. Is that it's a big frustration for a lot of Americans. The lack of accountability, of legislation, of penalties, of focus and attention that gets put on child sex trafficking, pedophilia, things that are significant. I mean, to me, I would argue that they're the largest dredges on our society is people who engage in that shit. And there's this weird, like almost, we don't talk about that. It's like a Fight Club thing almost or it seems like that way in D.C., whether it's the Epstein list still not being released, or just, like when you look at the numbers, which are kept very hush-hush for obvious and shitty reasons, but even of members within the House of Representatives that have been, accused or even wrapped up in shit like that. There's a lot of them, Is that why there isn't more attention put on that? From having spent so long in D.C., did you see any weird shit like that people tend to almost conspiracy theorize about?
Well, I'll tell you what I did see, and that is that everyone rallied around this bill when they saw that it was a winner. Again, not a political guy, but it was what it was. We had a Republican-controlled Senate, Republican-controlled House, and a Republican in the White House. So the chances of this bill, this Sex Offender Registration Notification Act, going anywhere had its best chance when those three things were lined up, and they were. And so, hey, make hay while the sun is shining, and we made some hay, and Bush signed it into law in 2006. Amazing how many people jumped on that bandwagon. And I'll drop some names for you. The original co-sponsor was Senator Joe Biden. Another co-sponsor was Senator Hillary Clinton. And then another one was Senator Barack Obama. But it wasn't just a few years later that we had a change in administration. And you would think that all these people who were just so for it, put my name on the list and count me in, Dianne Feinstein, and everyone was jumping on board. And the photo op from the Rose Garden, they couldn't keep them out. Everyone jumping on it. When it came time to fund it, no funding. No funding. And here you've got a president, a vice president, and now Secretary of State who all were for it, but now they don't. There's no funding for it. So,
has anybody ever asked them about that, to your knowledge?
Not that I know of. So, what I see in politics, and it goes both ways, is that the number one goal of a politician once they get there is to get reelected.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can say that, without too much trouble, but it's a fact. I mean, especially if you're on the House side, it's every 2 years. You get 1 year in, it's time. You're already behind.
Yeah.
You better start campaigning, raising funds, getting ready. Senators go for 6, but every soundbite, everything that they say and do seems to be geared toward making sure that they get reelected. So I think a lot of them are afraid to do anything, that either gets them noticed or puts them in the spotlight when they don't. It's not a spotlight. This isn't a farm issue, so I'm not going to get involved in it. This isn't a judiciary issue, so I'm not going to get involved in that. And so I think politicians, if I were to call them out, that's what I'd call them out for. Is they are playing it safe because it's all about that reelection.
So I understand that aspect of it. You know, I get it. What I don't understand is that in this particular issue seems like a fucking no-brainer. You know, unlike abortion, I mean, pick anything else, I can see where it's like, well, there's pros and cons, right? Is that, you know, your constituency is, maybe it's split, maybe it's even 60-40, 70-30, maybe that 30% is enough to keep you from being reelected, whatever. This is pretty fucking black and white, right? There's not, I mean, if there ever was an issue where you could say, if you're not for it, or if you're not against it, you're for it. Like, I don't know how you really classify this as anything other than that simple statement. And so I'll ask again, like, why is this particular issue so fucking swept under the rug so often? I mean, to me, it's one of those things, like, if you just use a little common sense and some deductive reasoning, there's really only one reason why that's the case that I can think of.
Yeah. You know, and I'll connect a couple of dots that I think are out there, and this is me, totally just my opinion, but I've been there, seen a little bit of this. Is and I'll take you back to the last hearing that they had on the Senate side. I think it was on the Senate side about where they brought in all the big tech guys. They brought in Zuckerberg, they brought in the Google folks. They brought, you know, all these. They had like 5 people there to talk about, you know, how bad those companies were for all the bad things that have happened to kids everywhere. And they even sort of got Zuckerberg to stand up, turn around, and make an apology to the parents of some of these kids who'd been exploited, abused, and either committed suicide or been killed. And I watched this thing from a distance, and I kept waiting, and I kept waiting, and I kept waiting for any member of Congress with any guts whatsoever to ask him the real question. And instead, what I saw was them playing, you know, working the thing for sound bites. Let's get a 1 minute, you know, sound bite of me going after Zuckerberg for what he's done to kids. And it's like, to me, that was like going after Henry Ford for all the people that are dead from car accidents. You know, the real issue to me is not the fact that they've created Facebook or Meta or Instagram or anything like that. The problem for me is that they've now gone with this end-to-end encryption so that pedophiles can go with complete anonymity behind the wall, and they won't look. They won't put anything in there to detect child porn, sexual assault material. You can go into, and I'm just going to say it, I mean, you can go into Meta now, create a chat room, you can and kill children, and you will never be caught, because Meta isn't going to turn around and report that to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Last year they would have, because they didn't have the end-to-end encryption, and so they had, you know, these scrubber detectors in there, and when they got a hit, they would send it to the National Center. And I came prepared with stats, and now I can't remember them, but, you know, millions. And I want to say last year, 36 million reports to the cyber tip line. It's going to be under 5 million this year, because they're not going to be reporting it, and they're letting it happen. And Meta, you know, I thought it was so funny when they talked Zuckerberg into turning around and making an apology for something that really wasn't his fault. And it's like, and if I was Zuckerberg, I'd be saying, yeah, I'll do this, because you're not really even getting at what I'm really doing, which is hiding the pedophiles behind my door. And I'm not going to let you in to see it. I'm not going to report it. And it's just going to happen, and I'm going to let it go. I don't care, is what I'm hearing.
I mean, do you know why nobody asked him that?
No, I don't.
Do you still have friends, colleagues, people that you talk to and stay in connection with on the Hill that you could ask why the fuck they didn't ask that?
The staff turnover on the Hill is pretty big. So no, I really don't. Now I did go back to the National Center, and I'm like, hey, you know, lesson learned. Is there a chance that we could have done this better? Could we have prepped these members of Congress any better to try to elicit a real question for these guys, instead of letting them play games with, oh, well, we've added parental controls and we've done this or that. Well, that's not even the issue.
Yeah.
The issue is you've stopped reporting something that is going to happen. We told them this was going to happen, and they just said, we don't care.
Yeah. It's an outrage. It's a fucking embarrassment. And then again, I'll just point to the fact that it's a pretty clear-cut issue. I mean, whether it's border stuff, guns, abortion, fucking drugs, whatever, okay, maybe there's a more of an even split on who's for and against it with this. How the fuck can there be that many people that are okay with this stuff to not do something about it, that are in positions to actually do something about it?
Yeah. Well, as usual, I would recommend that we follow the money. Look and see who Meta is supporting on the Hill.
Yeah.
And hey, it wouldn't surprise me if it was like, look, I'm gonna come at you with the, this question, but we're gonna let go of this other stuff. Or hey, I'm gonna ask you about end-to-end encryption. No, I don't think you need to.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be surprised to me at all if that conversation didn't take place. And it's like, no, I don't want you asking about that.
Yeah.
Because that's the real meat, and we don't want to talk about it.
So with your involvement with Wellness Home and that center, from your perspective, what can the average person listening right now, what can they do to help or about it?
Yeah. The biggest thing is just to get educated. It's amazing what you see if you kind of know what to look for. And there, the NCMEC.org, NCMEC.org has got a lot of resources. It's all free for both law enforcement, for parents, for interested citizens to get educated about what's going on out there and how these things operate. It's not a secret. They're going to the cheap motels. They're making use of these dark ways. Gas stations and truck stops and all these places that they tend to frequent. They've got to stop somewhere.
Yeah.
They've got to use the restrooms. They've got to sleep. They've got to do all this stuff. And chances are they're going to go where the less educated people on these issues are going to be, hanging, because the more educated folks are, if you rolled into the nicest hotel in Dallas with, pulling some poor kid by the hair, someone's going to report that and say something. But when they roll into the cheap hotel,
the Dewdrop Inn.
Yeah, I will say Motel 6 stepped up. They've been a huge supporter of NCMEC and teaching and training their employees what to look for. And you know what? Pretty soon, enough of these scumbags get reported out from Motel 6, and they quit going to Motel 6. So now they'll go to another place.
Yeah. Can you do kind of a general overview for the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children and the WellHouse Home, and then also what the biggest challenges are that both face?
Yeah, they're kind of different. The National Center is a clearinghouse for information and for support, and so their greatest offense is prevention. If we can prevent things from happening, then we don't have to clean them up after they happen. But I hate to use the term full service, but they really are full service. So we're on the front end trying to prevent, trying to educate, trying to get kids to be safe online, to not go there or to give out that information, to educate parents on what to look for with their kids gaming and all the avenues that they have to be approached by scumbags, predators. And then if a child were to go missing, if a child is engaged in dangerous conduct, what do you do and where do you go? Who do you call? How do you report that? I think in 2023, we assisted law enforcement with some 280,000 cases of missing kids, and I think we had an 88% recovery rate, which is pretty amazing considering when Adam Walsh was abducted, there was nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing out there for a parent to go to, no one to call, and almost no help, because they said, oh, it's probably a runaway. We'll give it a couple of days, and that just doesn't work. Time is of the essence. The WellHouse. And I should say with NCMEC, on the tragic other end, where a kid is missing and either is never found or is found, having been murdered, they have resources. They are an outlet and a help in that situation too, both in identifying remains and in helping families to recover. The WellHouse is a home. It's a restoration home for women and for girls who've been recovered from sex trafficking. And so sometimes it's court ordered, stay here. Other times it's a family agreement that they get to come and stay. And so it's a holistic approach to restoring them and to get them ready to see the world in a different way, and not the way, these guys that have abused and brainwashed and drugged them up to live and exist is, hey, there's a whole nother way to live, and let us introduce you to it. And so they slowly restore them back to being a productive member of society and love these women and girls until they're ready to make the next step, the next natural step back into society.
Phenomenal stuff, both of them. How can people help, and also is it safe to assume the biggest challenges on both are funding? Absolutely,
yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. Certainly, funding is it's always a need. You hate to admit it, but funding for both is very important. But the education piece is equally as important to me.
Yeah.
If people knew what to look for, NCMEC now has gas station TV. They've got ads out on gas station TV. You can sign up for ATOM alerts through LexisNexis and get an alert on your phone. You can get the Amber alerts on your phone, and the chances of you getting an alert, looking up and saying, "There's that kid that's missing," probably not going to happen. But the more you're aware and the more touches you have with this, then the more likely it is that you are going to be more aware. You and I were talking off the air about, when you came into the presence of someone who wasn't just a security guard, and it's like, hey, he's looking at me.
Different.
Yeah, you've been trained. You've been made aware. You've got this intuition now that's got this infrastructure within you, and we're looking to do the same thing with people.
Yeah.
If they have that awareness, then I think they're in a better position to call out something when it doesn't look right.
Knowledge is power, right?
Knowledge is power.
Yeah. Great stuff, and we'll put links in the description for all that stuff where people can find out more info and help them. Cheating Death, one of more than one book that you've written. What was the drive and motivation to want to write that and subsequent books? Yeah,
Cheating Death. It started as letters to my kids. I would go, on these overseas trips and all these countries, and it kind of dawned on me at some point that what if I don't make it home from this trip? And not a overwhelming thought in my mind. I mean, I was never just totally worried, but the most dangerous thing to me was flying on those Air Force planes. A C-141 that needed Band-Aids to be held together. Is like, is this thing really going to get us over the ocean and back? And and then the C-5s, it seemed to always break. But I was just thinking, what if something happened to me? And I thought it'd be so cool if, you get the death notice and then there's a letter from Dad, in the mail. And so I started writing letters. And at some point, right after 9/11, my sister gave me this leather-bound journaling book. And, of course, I was not about to start journaling, but what she said to me was, look, you're collecting some good stories and you're not very good at telling them. And so when we push play at Christmas, you suck at this. You're just not good at it. But then when we're playing cards later and someone says, oh, Brazil, and you're like, oh, I've been to Brazil. Let me tell you. And it's like something's got to prompt you. And he said, if you could just write these stories down when you think of them, when someone prompts you, just go back and write in this journal. So I started filling up this journal. And then when I went, and so the letters were more like life advice. Here's how you make a good decision. Here's a piece about leadership, and they're pithy. The stories, what I found was I was able to zipper them up. And so I tell some stories to make the points about protecting yourself, about leadership, hardship, friendship, preparing for opportunities, decision making, and guarding yourself. And so when I was in Philadelphia, I just started, since I was up there by myself, the family was still in D.C. and it was just supposed to be a 1-year deal. I started writing at night and taking what I'd written in the letters combined with what I had in the journal and zippering that up. And that was the first time I thought, I've got certain sort of almost like chapters. And so I segmented them like that. And then when when I retired from the Secret Service, I had all this on a thumb drive, and I'd pick it up and put it down for years. I wouldn't look at it, and I came back to it, and I was like, what is this? I plug it in. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah. And I started reading it, and I was like, this isn't half bad. And I happened to be doing this leadership training thing called Point Man with the co-founder Bob Phillips, and somehow it came up, and he's asking me about it, and I told him what I'd done, and I said, I'm just going to give it to the kids, I said, but I'd love to make it look like a book, hand it to them, and you get it bound at Walmart or wherever, and he said, well, you care if I take a read of it? And I was like, okay. So I sent it to him, and he called me back and said, hey, if you want to just bind this up in a book and give it to your kids, I can recommend a company that'll do it for you by Christmas, and that'll be great. He said, but I think you got something here. He said, I think people are going to want to read this. He said, I think you ought to lift your aperture just a little bit and get a little wider. Let's see if we can't get it published. And of course that was fun, trying to get a publisher to listen and agree. And thankfully, Post Hill Press, part of Simon & Schuster, said, we'll publish that. So. Yeah,
it's awesome. It's a great book. A ton of stories, ones that we didn't even begin to touch. I mean, with a 24-year career and everything that you've done subsequently, here we are running on 4 hours, I think, and still, kind of running out of time, and feel like I could still talk to you for a lot longer. But so you got Cheating Death is out now, obviously. Staying Sharp is coming out next year.
February of next year.
Anything else that you want to mention or that you're doing and kind of what's next?
Well, I do have a third book that I'm working on. It's called Welcome to the Jungle.
Nice.
I'm trying not to plagiarize your last book too much, but it just seems like we've got a lot in common. So I'm going to have to make it significantly different from that somehow. But it's become fun for me to write and to speak, and then have my mission set on the side with NCMEC and the WellHouse and base molecular resonance. So I feel like supposedly my great grandfather probably didn't invent the term, but he said if you want something done right, ask a busy person. Yeah. And I feel like I'm a busy person. I've got a lot going on. I've got a day job after all, and now writing books, speaking, and being on these boards. So I'm enjoying it. I'm living my best life. I hope people will read it and see what I'm talking about. But and on top of that, walking with my wife through cancer for the last 2 years, it's been so there's a lot on our plate. 5 kids, and but it's a joy. Yeah,
awesome. I can't thank you enough for coming, Ken. It's been a pleasure getting to ask you all the things that I know we're all curious about. So I appreciate it, and I want to give you a token of our appreciation here.
Mike, thank you so much.
And a coin. He gave me a Secret Service coin, which is already on display in the mic drop case. But so a coin, and then thanks to John Johnston for the donation, and Champion Choice Silver for what's in that black box, which is also for you.
Outstanding.
If you want to open that up.
You bet. Oh my word.
So you're an official mic drop. Texas buckle shit kicker now. So
what you don't know is that when I was in college, I worked in a cowboy boot and tack store.
Oh wow!
And so I worked there. I worked through Purdue at this store, and we sold buckles. And I can tell you from holding this and looking at it, we didn't sell a single one as nice as this one.
Oh man, that's awesome.
This is beautiful, and awesome. I'm honored. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming, man. I really appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for your service to this great country, and for sharing your story and the things you continue to do. There's not enough advocates for stuff like the center and the WellHouse home. So thank you for continuing and fighting the good fight and sharing it with all of us.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Mike.
All right. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you didn't, you can choke yourself. But on a serious note, I do appreciate everybody tuning in episode after episode. It's your support that allows us to bring you these stories. A big thanks to all the Patreon members for the questions and the support. Hope you're enjoying the extra bonus content, which we're going to film right now for you guys. And until next time, this is Mic Drop.